everybody. I'm Mayor Mark McBrayer, and because this is a scheduled City Council meeting, I need first to call this meeting to order and gavel it in. So this meeting of the Lubbock City Council is now called to order. To be clear for everyone, there is no action item on our agenda for tonight. This council is not taking a vote on anything tonight at all. Instead, we are handling this like a normal City Council meeting where we would have a work session. A work session is usually where our staff come and make presentations on some subject that we need some more information on. And then we will always have that followed by a time of citizen comments. If you've come to any of our City Council meetings, you know that's how we operate them. So we've moved this meeting here from City Hall so we could accommodate the crowd we anticipated, and it's a good crowd tonight. We're glad that we're able to fit everyone in here that wanted to be present tonight. We're also live casting this as well. And we're going to discuss some very important issues regarding data centers. I want to keep my comments short here to begin this meeting because the purpose of the meeting tonight is to hear from you. We want to know what your biggest concerns are and to hear different perspectives and maybe even hear some things tonight that we as a council have not yet thought about as we've dealt with this issue over the many months that we've been dealing with it. First, let me thank you for taking the time to come. And I want to thank you for taking the time to fill out the survey that we had online for a while. We compiled the results from that survey, and when we discuss them further in a moment, I think you'll see that what the survey showed were your concerns are also our concerns as a council. Water use, electricity demand, utility costs, noise, environmental impacts. Those are our concerns as well. Now, we've seen how many other cities around this country have handled this issue and have voted oftentimes on data centers before actually having the public have an opportunity to speak on it. And this has led to a lot of frustration and distrust on the part of citizens. So we want to avoid that. That's why we're having this meeting before we have ever taken any action on any data center at all. We're in a much better position now than many other cities, because we've been able to watch and learn from them and see what they have done well and what they've done wrong and what concerns perhaps they have failed to address along the way. So let me be clear. First of all, this City Council has not approved any data centers at all. In fact, our Planning and Zoning Commission has already voted one data center proposal down, and the proponent withdrew it before it ever came to the council for a vote. So no large-scale data centers have been voted on by this council. We don't currently have a proposal in front of us to vote on. We've not entered into any contracts with any developers or data center groups, and none of us have signed any non-disclosure agreements with anybody. What we have done, though, is instruct our city staff months ago to begin studying the impact that large-scale data centers will have on our water and our utilities and on nearby residents from noise, light, and emissions. Importantly, all these impacts would exist whether or not the City Council ever actually approved a data center or not to be located inside the city. The only difference is that if a data center exists outside the city limits in the county, it's not subject to very many restrictions at all on what they can do, where the city has much more control through its zoning powers and our provision for utilities. So we've already asked our staff to look at ways available to us as a city to address those concerns that large-scale data centers raise. And we needed to do this because the reality is that large-scale data centers are already being built near us in Abilene, in Abernathy, in Childress, and in Dickens County. Before long, they'll come knocking on our front door wanting zoning approval so they can build inside our city limits. Lubbock's in a great spot right now to be able to address your concerns, which are, again, our concerns too, before we consider any proposals for development within our city. Tonight's public meeting is not intended to convince anybody that a large-scale data center is either a net positive or a net negative for the city. Instead, our goal here tonight is aimed at helping you understand better how we, as your elected officials, are trying our best to address the issues and concerns that data centers raise for our city. We want to make sure we're not missing anything in our discussions and we want to make sure we're not getting tunnel vision on this. We're not going to have all the answers for you tonight, but I think we will be able to provide some answers to the questions that have been raised. But the big part of tonight and the main goal of tonight is to listen to you and hear from you, which means you will be speaking to us after the presentation, but we will not be answering questions as a council. We will be noting your questions. Our staff here are writing them down, and we will follow up if there's something that we have not covered tonight and needs to be covered in additional meetings. So the goal tonight is to hear from as many of you as possible. I think I understand that 140 people have signed up to speak tonight. This meeting we intend to last for 3 hours. I don't know that we will get through all 140 people. So if we don't get you tonight, hopefully you will write your question down or submit it. But I also would ask you, as we call you forward here in a little bit, that if someone has already asked your question, then you step aside and let somebody else come forward to see if they would raise their question, and that will allow more people to get their questions asked or their concerns presented tonight than if everybody presents the same issue over and over again. But you can ask questions, you can present information, that's all fine. Hopefully some of those questions will be addressed by our staff as we go through this, so you see what we've already done. But if not, there will be opportunities to answer those questions at a later time. But we're not going to be responding to you tonight because that will eat into the time that people have to come forward and ask their questions. All right? This is how the meeting will go tonight. Our city manager, Jared Atkinson, and our assistant city manager, Eric Rahino, are each going to give us a short presentation presenting the research that they have done up till this point, as well as discussing the surveys that many of you filled out. Then we're going to turn on the mic up front to hear from those of you who have signed up to make comments. And we'll be up here taking notes along with our city secretary and other people here tonight. We're fortunate tonight to have Abner Uresti as our moderator for the comments portion of our meeting. And he's not here on behalf of KCBD, but he will call on speakers. He will call you up to the mic in groups of 3, so that there's always someone on deck and someone then behind them waiting to come to the mic so we can do this as expeditiously as possible without wasting time. He's going to also, after calling up speakers, he will help us keep track of time and facilitate any discussions we might have to have. We scheduled 3 hours tonight to hear from you, and we're going to have a short break in the middle of it. And my request is that you remain on topic with your questions, the topic being large-scale data centers. And everybody respects the clock so we can hear from as many of you as possible tonight. Abner will be watching the clock, and we've got 2 minutes. Some people have said, well, you normally have 3 minutes for people to speak. It's 2 minutes tonight so we can get as many people up to the mic as possible. So that's why we have limited that time. I will tell you that I expect this group of people to be respectful of the speakers. Citizens' comment time always in our council is for the people at the mic to speak. It's not for just general comments from the crowd. So please be respectful of the person at the mic, because any interruptions will eat into their time, and it will also reduce the amount of time available for people to come and talk to us. So I hope that we don't have to deal with interruptions, but if interruptions occur, we'll give one warning, and that's all. Because the purpose tonight is for the people who signed up to come and address us. All right? I hope everybody understands that and will be respectful, and I expect this crowd. Lubbock is a respectful place. So I'm hoping that everything goes well tonight. So thank you all very much. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Jared Atkinson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and Mayor, let me start off with an apology. I gave you the wrong number. We're a little over 60 signed up right now, so as that changes, we'll let the council know. But thank you for that, council. Thank you for being here. And okay, how's that? Whoa. How about halfway in between all those two? Okay. Mayor, council, thank you for being here tonight, and certainly to all of those in the audience. Myself and Mr. Eric Rahino, we're going to go through a couple of quick presentations here. We're going to start by seeing if I'm smart enough to use the device. And apparently I am not, Lacey. How about this? We practiced twice. For my next trick, I'll ask Miss Lacey to hit the button for me. I promise I am not trying out for American Idol tonight. There we go. Okay. Matt, did you do that or did Lacey?
I don't know.
Okay. Council, not going to read my way through all of these, but I think it's important. We mentioned large-scale data center. So what we have learned as we've worked on this, the staff and myself, and we've been at this for most of a year. We've done numerous site visits, other cities. We've done everything we can do. And we have learned there's not a common definition. So the first definition up there actually comes from IBM, and it just says, what is a data center? The next one, we hear hyperscale. And for a while, I thought hyperscale was somewhat of a unit of measurement, and it is not. It refers to the ability of one of these systems to scale and to grow and to meet demands, and that's not our definition. It comes from industry. So, without there being a definition, we offer one tonight. And this is similar to what we've been working on when we talk about development standards. For today, we'll talk about it as a large-scale data center uses 100 megawatts or more of electricity per day, and, or, either one will get you there, 100,000 gallons of water per day, and primarily supplies information or does processing for off-site users. We're not talking about those data centers that are in a school or a hospital or a business. Large-scale data centers. With that, let's go straight to this thing that still doesn't work and click to the next one, which will be the results of the survey if they'll come up. You really don't want me to sing.
This is what a mayor's nightmares are made of.
I know.
There we go. Thank you.
Okay. We had nearly 1,550 people take the survey. So to those that did that, thank you for doing so. 90% of those respondents indicated they lived in the city of Lubbock. 10% did not. The chart on the screen shows you the 10 items that we put on the survey and asked those respondents to rank. As the mayor said, water number 1, electric items number 2, environment number 3, noise, light number 4, transparency of the government, and scaling on down. So we're going to hit a few of those points here, and Eric will hit more as we go. Click. Click. If you could see the next slide, it would be about water. Lacey, can you just advance it on the computer?
Do we have extra battery? There we go.
Need to go back one more.
I'm going to X out when we do it. Try the clicker now. I switched it to this one. Try this one. No.
Okay, jumping back on topic. What we've got in front of us right here, this is a description of what the daily capacity of the city of Lubbock's water system looks like. We have 3 separate sources of water that supply the water system here in Lubbock. As you see, none of those sources are from Lubbock or Lubbock County. We have our Canadian River Municipal Water Authority allocation of a little over 33 million gallons a day. We have Lake Allen Henry at 20 million a day, and the Bailey County well field at 18 million a day. Your point-in-time capacity of Lubbock's water system today, as we speak, is 71.35 million gallons. In addition to the daily supply, you have about 565 million gallons of water that is held in two reservoirs. We call them terminal storage reservoirs. That is raw water that has already been delivered. It has been brought to Lubbock, and it is sitting at one of the two treatment plants waiting to be used if needed. So point-in-time capacity, 71.35. Here's what the usage looks like, and these are all 2025 numbers, so last year. Last year, the average day was 36.5 million gallons. Compared to your capacity, nearly 35 million remaining. On the peak day, so the day we hit the most usage ever in 2025, it was really relatively low, about 50.2 million gallons on that day. That left 21.6 remaining. I think total usage is relevant and important because it highlights a lot of work that this council and this community have done. In 23, your total system use was right at 13.0 billion, with a B, gallons. 13.1 in 2024, and 13.3 in 2025. Compare that to 2011. In 2011, your system had to produce 15.3 billion gallons. The difference in those numbers are largely the conservation measures that this community has adopted and put into place. We have dropped what we call gallons per capita per day, which is just a measure of what we use per person. We have dropped gallons per capita per day by nearly 50 gallons per person per day. To put that into another example, there are 40,000 more people in Lubbock today than there were in 2011, and you're using 2 billion fewer gallons of water. So, the question, what comes next? I mean, obviously the community will continue to grow. That is everyone's goal. And you will need supply as the community grows. Lubbock does have a 100-year water plan. I like to say it is fully funded. Funded means you have those sources available to you. They have not been developed. You don't develop until you need them, and you bring them to town. That's what those three on the screen are. The first is Lake 7. That is a 12 million gallon a day, what we call firm yield, which means it'll run that number all the time. And somebody is going to ask me, well, what about weather? And that's a great question for lakes. That is the most weather agnostic lake that you will see because it's a reuse lake. It has a guaranteed inflow, which is greater than what you will take out. On a short-term basis, that lake would be able to produce 25 million gallons a day. You wouldn't do that for long, but if you have an issue with one of your others, that's what you would do. When that lake is built and done and it's online, and us and our 10 partners in Crimwell move forward in time, move forward in demand, the next project is Crimwell 2. Very large project that originates in Roberts County and makes its way down to all 11 member cities. 32 million gallons additional supply. The third is actually a Lake Allen Henry project. It's what we call phase 2. A lot of the infrastructure for Lake Allen Henry is meant to produce 30 if needed. We can produce it at 20 today. So with relatively simple improvements, simple in the world of water, you have another 10 million there. That is the farthest out project unless something changes and you need it sooner. That's the quickest one to bring online if it becomes necessary to do that. Collectively, that's 50 years of your water future here in Lubbock. So, where's the water coming from? Today, a little over 61% of that 71.3 million gallons is groundwater. Two different sources, Roberts County and Bailey County. About 39% is surface water. Largest surface water supply is Lake Allen Henry, then Lake Meredith. After Lake 7 comes online, those percentages almost reverse. So when Lake 7 is up and running, your surface water portion will be 58%, rather than 39%, and your groundwater will fall to 42 from 61. Relatively unique in West Texas that you're making moves more towards the renewable sources than what we've done historically with the groundwater. So, questions on water, Mayor and Council, before I move into the next? Trying to speed up and get us back.
Any questions? So by groundwater, you're referring to water we pump up out of the Ogallala Aquifer, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Let's kind of move into what we're going to call perspectives for the next couple of slides. So, any community needs growth, and it needs growth in all sectors, and that is the only way to have a healthy, thriving, and affordable community. One part of your community does not grow if the others do not. So I'm talking residential, commercial, industrial, health, all of it. You need to see everything rise together. Thus, your city's goal, we want economic benefit for the entire community as a result of growth. Simple and obvious ways that occurs are through jobs, revenue for city services that comes from new growth rather than from those that are already here, and then it's economic opportunity for our residents and for our businesses and for all of the legs of the stool. A note to keep in mind, and you'll see this in a moment, $100 million of taxable value generates about $472,000 to provide for city services. Does not matter what sector that $100 million comes from. Just that amount of growth produces that amount of revenue for you to provide service to the community. So, to try to illustrate water, growth, and a few other items, I've got a sequence of these charts here. So we've taken three pretty well-known neighborhoods in Lubbock. Each of those are roughly 640 acres or 1 square mile. The Lubbock Business Park is also roughly 1 square mile. I have doubled all of their numbers because it is not fully built out. We have created an imaginary data center, and it means what it says. I made it up. And then a 640-acre cotton farm. So let me go through my notes real quick, and then we'll look at the numbers. A 640-acre cotton farm under Pivot is not 640 wet or 640 irrigated acres. It's more like 520. We've used, again, industry standard sources to figure out the applied irrigation. We've converted it back to an annual number. You don't irrigate year-round. You irrigate during the growing season. But we've brought it back to a common denominator, and again, we've doubled the business park. But here's what you see. 2025 numbers for the first four, the imaginary data center, and then industry numbers for that cotton farm. If you took a neighborhood such as Bell Farms, compared to your top 20 individual users, that one neighborhood would fall between the number 4 and the number 5 user today. Regal Park would fall between the 3rd and the 4th largest. Tech Terrace, 6 to 7. The business park doesn't come anywhere close. If the data center was 110,000, note that that is bigger than the definition, trying to make this obvious, it'd be between number 13 and number 14. The cotton farm with 520 irrigated acres would be up between the 4th and the 5th in terms of water use. So the illustration, while 100,000 or 110,000, that's a big number. In the scale of a 13 billion gallon water system, it's really not. So you see those comparatives. Let's talk about infrastructure. So neighborhoods, residential, commercial, everything requires public infrastructure. The takeaway from this, those three neighborhoods, as they finish up full development, they're all going to have somewhere between 78 and 80 miles of city infrastructure inside of them. Why? Because we build streets and alleys and those things you need to be successful. The business park, large lots, larger users, not as many of them, about 33 miles. If we stay on a 640-acre imaginary data center, it won't have public infrastructure on the inside of it. So, another way to look at that. How about public services? So calls for service are what we used for this. So these are our dispatchable service. You call for the police, for fire, for animal control, for code enforcement. We pulled those and we put them on here. So again, this represents calendar year 2025. You can see the peak of just under 2,500 dispatchable calls for service down to a low of 300. I don't know what an imaginary data center would be, so we have question marks. All of these things wrap into that economic growth, what we want to see that is good for our community to be healthy and thriving and affordable. So we've only assigned a cost to those dispatched calls for service. And you see what we didn't put in there: street maintenance, alley maintenance, parks and recreation, library, senior centers. Only dispatchable services. You take those values, again, $100 million, $472,000, produces the revenue, less the calls for service, and you see the net. There are numbers filled in for the imaginary data center. They're likely wrong, but what we've done is taken exactly what's going on in the business park and assigned it to that data center. They may well change, but you can see how those peaks and valleys trickle down through that chart. Moving on, nearly done with my part of this. Who in Texas has the authority to do what if we talk about development standards? We're here tonight to talk about large-scale data centers. I think it's important to understand this would apply to any type of development. But in that vein, we talk about water use. That lies within the authority of cities in Texas. It really does not with counties, and it really does not with the state. Yes, the state regulates public water systems, but the state does not provide water. Same thing is true with wastewater. Zoning authority. Zoning authority resides with cities. It does not with counties. It does not with the state. That may change in the future, but that's where it stands today. The ability to regulate noise. You have a check mark for the city. That means yes. You see the kind of sort of lines on the county and on the state. That's because there is a state law that has a noise number, a decibel number in it, but it's a large, large number, and cities have the authority to have a lower, the others don't, unless state law changes. Light. Regulating light on a development. That's a city authority, it's not a county or a state. It goes the other direction, though, when we talk about air. So cities and counties do not regulate air, air quality, air permits, those things you hear. The state does, and that is primarily regulated through the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, the TCEQ. Economic incentives, and this is again for anything that you might choose to do, the state, the county, the cities can do that. Electric turns around the other direction, though. We put the maybe lines on the city, and that's only unique to the city of Lubbock. But it's important to note that that's only there because Lubbock owns the distribution utility. We don't control or mandate how much electricity could come in or could get used. We can just deliver it. Counties do not, state does. So when we talk about electric use, the grid, the cost of the grid, that is entirely the state, and it's through the Public Utility Commission, PUC, and ERCOT, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. That leads me right into my next slide, though. This is a June 10, 2026 letter from Governor Abbott to the chairs of both the PUC and to ERCOT. Obviously, it's a small piece of that, but I've highlighted two that I think are very relevant for tonight's discussion. The governor has instructed both of the leads of those agencies to take action to require data centers to pay all of their electric infrastructure cost so that the residential ratepayer is not. Traditional ways that you expanded the grid in ERCOT, some portion of that cost did get passed down to all ratepayers. Not all of it, but a portion. The governor has said no. Data centers pay all their cost so that the residential ratepayer does not. The final one, he's asked the PUC or instructed both the PUC and ERCOT to look at those existing authorities they have today. Not authority they may get in the next legislative session, but what they have today. To review their existing authority and to identify those actions that can be taken to safeguard Texans, our property, and our resources. It's a pretty bold statement, and it is directed right at the two state agencies that do have the ability to do what, in this case, a city or a county really does not. So, council, this is my last one. I'll take any questions before I hand it over, and if not, we'll bring up Mr. Regino.
Any questions from the council? If you don't mind going back to the one that showed who regulates what. So a hypothetical data center located in the city would be subject to our water, wastewater, zoning, noise, light, and any incentives would be subject to our regulations on that. If it was located in the county, it would not be subject to any of those limitations in the county except for a very high noise level. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And again, the state overrides county and city, so the state does mainly control air, incentives, and electricity. Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Atkinson, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Something I've been very interested in is potential noise and light pollution from data centers. In a lot of ways, data centers are like warehouses from what I've seen, having driven across the state, looking at several. I know we've got existing policies whereby we regulate noise and light right now. Can you go into some detail on what we've done to date to regulate these issues at similar projects?
Yes, and I think possibly you and I have seen some of those same currently operating data centers. So I'm going to steal a little bit of Eric's thunder. I'm going to leave some of the detail for him. But today, we do regulate what type of use can go in what particular zone. It's land use regulation. We already have noise standards, light standards, all of that already exists today. The counterpoint to that, the way the zoning code stands today, a data center can be built in Lubbock, and it can be built in a wider range of zones than what staff is going to recommend to you here in the next presentation. We're going to recommend things like, on the zoning, limit the districts even tighter, expand setbacks, require certain screening and or berms. I mean, things that will all directly affect that, as well as establishing a noise limit that is less than what we currently have today. And the lighting, what we call the spillover, today we do regulate that. We think there's a way to make that even more particular to these unique types of uses.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. First of all, thank you for that information. I do want to thank the public for being here, for making the time to come and let us hear your perspective. It's very important. Mr. Atkinson, under water use, you selected different neighborhoods and whatnot. I noticed that, and maybe I'm overlooking this, but you didn't have any of the neighborhoods from District 1 or 2, like actual neighborhoods. Do you have any of those numbers that you can share with me on water usage?
I do not tonight. I can run those on any. I didn't want that chart to have one per district. I would have had 6 neighborhoods.
I mean, I know you put the Lubbock Business Park, it is in District 1, but I want to see my neighborhoods, at least 1 or 2, just so I can compare water usage. And, you know, I know that the public's done a really great job of conserving, but I want to know the use of neighborhoods in District 1 and 2.
Yeah, I'd be glad to give me the ones that you want. Now that we've got the formats filled out, I can plug any neighborhood into them. It just takes a few days to pull the data.
Okay.
And am I correct that the greatest use of water in homes, residences, is for watering lawns? Is that correct?
Generally speaking, yes, it is. Generally speaking, during the summer, more than half of all the water that comes into our potable water system ends up as outdoor use. It's going onto lawns, it's going onto gardens, washing cars, those types of things.
And that's usually what it becomes our peak use time of the year, right?
That'll generally hit in August.
And in winter, it's usually a lower.
In winter, we can have days down in the mid-20s, so significantly less than average.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. With that, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Eric Regino. He is going to present a set of draft standards. I think they speak to Councilman Bruegel's questions pretty directly on a few of those. Again, it's not what you have today. It's staff suggestions for what you could do if you really want to kind of tighten some of this up. All subject to change. None of it has been done. It's presented for discussion. So, Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Mayor, Council, I'm going to take the next few minutes to go over some draft standards, proposed standards for large-scale data centers that my staff and I have been working on. We've looked at several cities, have been studying data centers, and initially, we have a draft concept for you that we wanted to really get some feedback from you all as well as the general public. Just to touch on this, the concept we've come up with is that of establishing a specific use permit within your zoning code. And Mr. Atkins touched on it. I'm going to expand on it just a little bit more. So currently, large-scale data centers are allowed by right in several districts. There's 4 districts. And what we're proposing in this is to establish a specific use permit, require public input, require public hearings, and limit it to just a couple of districts, which I'll touch on here in a little bit. All this is within your authority, and again, going over the water usage, wastewater, zoning and land use, and within that, you've got setback requirements that are existing that we're going to propose that if you choose to move forward to add to those, as well as landscaping, screening, noise mitigation, and lighting. Those are things that you deal with within your current code. And again, we would propose a specific use permit which would require additional public hearings, public input, and limit it to a couple of your districts versus having the broader districts that you have now for large-scale data centers. So let's touch on this. So what is a large-scale data center for purposes of today? As
Let me
Mr.
ask you one
Atkinson
quick
touched on.
question, Eric.
Yes.
The specific use is different from a by right.
Yes.
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 Could you explain the difference between
Very
that?
good. So a specific use is basically an additional criteria within a zoning district. So you have your base district requirements and a specific use, which is a whole other set of criteria that's on top of that. And again, that also triggers a public hearing in addition to a traditional zoning case. So good question. Thank you. So what is a large-scale data center? Again, for purposes of today, as we've touched on, it's a large-scale data center that either is 100 megawatts per day of power usage and or 100,000 gallons of water, as well as primarily supplying information or processing to one or more off-site end users. They're primarily used to, again, house real and personal property consisting of buildings, network computer servers, data and transaction processing equipment, as well as a related infrastructure to support the operation. They're there for the purpose of storing remote storage, providing data and transaction processing services, outsourcing information technology, as well as distributing large amounts of data. As far as the City of Lubbock's role, your authority, the city's role in that, I'm going to touch on what we can do and what we cannot control. First of all, again, you have access and you have control over annexation, zoning, noise mitigation, lighting, infrastructure requirements, utility service agreements, as well as any other enforceable contracts that the council chooses to enter into. That's within your authority as it sits today. The city does not control ERCOT, state electric policy, state tax incentives, as well as broader property rights. So really what I'm going to focus my next several slides are on in the next few minutes is really based on what the council has authority to do.
Would you explain for everyone what ERCOT is if they don't know?
The Electric Reliability Council, I'm going to touch
Of Texas.
Of Texas. Yep.
And what does ERCOT do?
ERCOT, I'm actually going to hand over to Mr. Atkinson to touch on. He's far more an expert than I am at on ERCOT.
So, ERCOT, or the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, is the body that manages and controls the entirety of the state electric grid. It does not include the grid that's the Panhandle and the very far side of West Texas, or really even what is South Plains Electric Co-op, but almost all the rest of Texas is in ERCOT. The giant power lines that you see, the big power plants, the nuclear plants that Texas has, wind farms, solar farms, all of that puts stuff into the grid. ERCOT manages what is coming in, thus what is available to go out. They don't own or sell it, but I've heard it described as they are air traffic control for electricity for about 90% of the state. They are state chartered, state mandated. The regulator is the Public Utility Council. They work hand in hand. Public Utility Council does the projects, approves them, vets them. ERCOT is the one that says, yes, this is okay on the grid because we have transmission from A to B, thus you have supply available for a new load.
Thank you.
So going into water, one of the proposals in the specific use permit we're recommending as a proposed standard would be to only allow large-scale data centers that are using a closed-loop cooling system or an air-dry cooling system, which significantly reduces water usage on a daily basis. In addition to that, as part of that, as part of the specific use application, we would propose that council require not only what your initial water consumption is going to be, but what your total build-out's going to be. So what do you use on day one, and what's the full build-out look like? And it allows us as a city to plan for that accordingly, as well as I think it's an appropriate item for the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider, as well as the City Council to consider in making decisions on any particular project, large-scale data center. And staying along those lines of water, the other item we've discussed is let's just use a hypothetical 100,000 gallons a day. You have a large-scale data center, or in fact, just any other business that's going to use 100,000 gallons of water. We reserve that 100,000 gallons of water as the project's being developed. That water can then not be used for any other economic benefit. So we're having to set it aside for if and when that project comes into fruition. And what we're proposing in this water reservation fee, very similar to an option contract where you pay for the option to basically buy land at a later time, we would collect a fee based on estimated water consumption, collected on a monthly basis. If and when that project comes into fruition, that fee that would then be credited back to that particular development for water usage. If that project does not come into fruition, then the city council, the city benefits from it and keeps that and is able to invest that in additional water related to infrastructure in the future. So it's a fee, it's a benefit for Lubbock. If the project doesn't come, again, there's a cost for it, and the citizens ultimately end up benefiting from that fee. We would assess it at the time of the execution of a development agreement, and again, only for your really large users. And again, that 100,000 gallons is one we've discussed. That's still really up in the air, and really would like some feedback on that as well. 100,000 gallons would be right at our 14th largest water user in Lubbock today, based on the 2025 numbers. So let's talk more about specific districts. We're proposing a specific use permit. That is an additional set of regulations, requirements, standards that fall within any district that you set. We're recommending that you scale back what you have now and limit it to your light industrial and your general industrial district. So if there's a proposed data center, large-scale data center that is appropriately zoned for light industrial or general industrial, they would still have to get that specific use permit. It would still trigger public hearings. It would still take the city council taking those on a case-by-case basis. I'm going to go to the next slide and just touch on this. It would require a public hearing, number one, in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. They would then make a recommendation of the council. That recommendation goes to the council during a regularly scheduled meeting. There's a second public hearing. And again, any particular specific use or a zone change must be approved by council with 2 reads of an ordinance. So you're looking at 2 public hearings and 3 public meetings for that in order to do that, and doing it with a specific use. That's the benefit of using specific use, is it requires that additional public input and additional consideration by the P&Z and the council. Another item built in that we're proposing within the specific use permit would be to require a power usage study provided by a licensed engineer, including the type of generation. So we want to know how much power, and number 2, what type of generation. You're going to purchase it off the grid, or are you going to have generation on site? Is that gas turbines, wind turbines, solar? So we want to know that up front as y'all consider every specific use on a case-by-case basis. Let's touch on setbacks. Your current general industrial and light industrial districts currently have existing setbacks. So I'm going to touch on these and what you have existing today in the code, and then what we're proposing. So for starters, your minimum front, side, and rear setback, if it's not adjacent to residential, in your general industrial, it's 50 feet, and your light industrial, it's 40 feet. If it's adjacent to residential, your minimum front, side, and rear setback for general industrial is 150 feet and 100 in light industrial. What we're proposing in, again, the specific use permit would be to increase that if it's not adjacent, if it's adjacent to anything but light industrial and general industrial, we would propose that you increase that to 300 feet. If there's generation on site, so you've got gas turbines, wind turbines, solar, an additional 500 feet, or combined 500 feet. So going up from your 150 and 100 to, in essence, 300 and 500 feet, depending on whether they have self-generation on site. So an additional setback, which helps with the concerns related to noise, lighting, in addition to some of the other items and concerns.
Not all data centers produce their power on site, is that correct?
That's correct.
So if they didn't produce it on site, they'd be at 300, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
But if they did produce it on site, they would be at 500.
It'd be at 500.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And if they're adjacent to another light industrial or general industrial district, then it would just be the traditional
The traditional numbers.
setbacks as they're written today.
Okay.
Mr. Rieno, a question I've gotten from a number of people and a question I've often found myself. What do we see these data centers used for? We've seen them in Fort Worth. There's one going up by Dickens and Abernathy. What's the purpose of these, the industrial purpose?
The industrial purpose, I mean, process data. They're used as AI hubs, crypto mining, they're used for a combination of things. One of the things staying along the lines of existing setbacks, the other thing we've seen is related to setbacks is that of additional screening requirements. Minimum of a 6-foot berm is what we're proposing. I've seen berms work quite well based on some of the pictures I've seen from some of the site visits that our team has taken there. In addition to having a minimum of a 7-foot solid screening fence around the actual infrastructure around the buildings, if there's on-site generation, any of the other items. Staying along the lines of screening and buffering, the current code in your GI and LI, and I'm thinking a general industrial district, you have to have a minimum of 10% landscaping on the property. We would propose that you have additional buffering, additional landscaping, and what we're proposing here is to have additional trees, 4 canopy trees per 100 feet, in addition to what you already have in your general industrial and light industrial districts to continue to help with that buffering when adjacent to other non-light industrial and general industrial districts. Let's touch on noise. So what we regulate today is at the 80 decibels. At the 80 decibels, it's between a truck and a hairdryer, between that 80 and 90 there. What we're proposing in the specific use permit would be to go to 57. A 57 decibel read would be just shy of a conversation and a little louder than a refrigerator running. So that would be at all property lines. We would require a sound study, sound absorption barriers, as well as let us know what type of acoustic materials and construction you're going to be using to build, and as well as if you have generators for your routine exercising of your generators on site for backup power, we would require that they only be run Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Again, that's just your generator routine exercises for maintenance that those of us that have generators for those purposes do. So.
Mr. Rieno, would you say the loudest part of a data center typically would be the power generation,
Yes,
similar
sir.
to the plant we've got out on the Slayton Highway?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And this really ties back also to that additional setback requirement. Again, if it's doesn't have on-site generation 300 feet, if it has on-site generation the 500 feet, so that I think that would help also address the noise concern. So that's why we're proposing the additional footage on generation or on-site generation.
And these decibel levels are measured at the property line?
That is correct. Yes, sir. So air quality, again, is not something that is within the city's authority, the city council's authority. But one thing we could do that you could consider in that specific use permit is to require that those permits be provided, the compliance documents be provided to the city. And if you find that there's an issue, that they're not in compliance or that they don't have the permit, then we could then work with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality at that point and hand it over and work with our state partners. Even though it's not within your authority, it is within your authority to ask for those documents if you set that as a criteria for your specific use permit. And again, air quality regulated by federal and state. At the state level, it's the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. That's who regulates that and issues those permits. So the next couple slides related to lighting, these are already within your existing code. We already have this in the Unified Development Code. So all luminaries with initial lamp output of over 1,500 lumens shall be face down, as the pictures show. Again, this also ties back to the setback requirements. In addition to this, you would have your additional setbacks that will help with lighting. So 1,500 lumens is the threshold to require that lighting to be shielded. In addition to that, we also have vertical illuminance. This is specific by district and it varies by district, but in your light industrial and general industrial district, It's 2 foot candles, and you can see the visual there of about how far a foot candle would go out. And this would be in addition to facing the light down, as well as your setback requirements. But these are in your current code today as they sit today, and they're specific to your light industrial and general industrial districts. There's been a lot of discussion about, what if a data center comes and at some point in time they cease to exist? The concern, I think, here is really more related to the on-site generation, the gas turbines, wind turbines, solar. So what we're proposing is that you have the applicant of the specific use permit provide a decommissioning plan, as well as a letter of credit. So if and when the facility, the operation ceases to exist, and council wants to address the decommissioning of the say, call it the on-site generation, if the applicant does not do that, you have a letter of credit that you can go claim on and then address that yourself and decommission as appropriate, depending on the type of generation that it is. So right now we're recommending that you consider that really for only on-site generation. As obviously buildings can always be repurposed, but this is, we obviously have used letters of credit throughout the development code in other areas, so this is not a new theme, but it would be, again, this would be specific for on-site generation decommissioning.
Yeah,
Councilman?
Eric, can you hear me? I don't know if it's on. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In layman's terms, I know there's a lot of people here that want to know what is the benefit of this data center. I know it's for cell phones. I know that it's for the internet. But in layman terms, what real purpose does the data center serve as far as getting a plant? Because we already have those services now. So what is the purpose?
Data processing is becoming more and more, and I think there's a lot of folks here that probably, including myself, that use some form of AI, related to just processing data, finding information. That is becoming more and more of a demand that I think is requiring the additional storage of these data centers. That, I think, is an everyday use that I think a lot of folks are using now.
So we need more now, or is this just getting things ready for the future?
I think both. I think there's obviously a higher need now. There's a demand for it, as well as a future demand for it that they're trying to plan for. So.
Okay. Thank you.
So let's touch on power generation, transmission, and distribution. Again, when a data center has on-site power generation, all the standards we've talked about will apply. There's some additional setback requirements we would recommend. It's really important to note, though, set the data center aside just for a minute. The current code requires that on-site power generation, transmission, and distribution today in your current code have a specific use permit. We saw one of those that P&Z voted down, that got pulled out. But that's in your code today, so that's a requirement today. There's nothing you need to do to require a specific use permit for on-site generation. This is in your code today as it relates to wind turbines, solar panels, simple cycle turbines, and on-site generation.
Eric, Mr. Regino.
Yes, ma'am.
Going back to that particular, just for clarification, a data center could potentially also have wind turbines, and then the simple cycle, the solar panels, and then it could have a combination of all of the above, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It really wraps up the presentation that I have. Going back through, these are all standards within your authority, council. Again, going back to water usage, wastewater, zoning and land use, setback requirements, landscaping, noise mitigation, and lighting. Those are all items. Some of it's already in your code now, but you do have the ability to add to those. Again, the concept we presented to you today is really tied to a specific use permit, which is a set of regulations within a current zoning code. And again, we're proposing that you consider the lead industrial and general industrial. And again, today it's allowed in a broader spectrum of districts. So we would recommend that you consider scaling that down to fewer districts. And then number two, adding a specific use on top of that to require that public input, that additional consideration by the P&Z, the council, and the general public. So with that, Mayor, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And I'll be happy to take any questions or comments.
I'd like to take you back to, I think it's number 4, the Let's look at that particular
Slide 4.
slide.
What we can and can't do.
No, it's not about what we can and cannot control. This is what my question is. So basically, when we're discussing ERCOT, where do the ERCOT lines, where do they lie right now in the city of Lubbock? Are they in all over the city? Are they in District 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Where are they located right now? How does that work?
We'll let Mr. Atkinson take this one.
Yeah, so the very, very large lines, there's a set that comes in kind of from north to the center part of the north central part of Lubbock. There's a large set that kind of runs from south to north, kind of south central Lubbock. They don't actually come into town. Well, the north one does a little bit, but they generally don't. And then the one that ties the grid from south to north, north to south, is over on the east, to the east side of town. It's actually outside the east loop.
So what I'm understanding then is that these, since what you're saying, the location then would be in areas like District 1 and District 2. What other district would that also lie in?
It depends on how far they want to pull that power. I don't see it coming into the center part of town, because you would have to have some pretty good sized lines.
So it wouldn't go into District 3, 4, 5, or 6? Because we don't have the lines to support it?
The southern end of District 3, I'm sorry, of 4, is not very far removed.
But would it be impacted? Are those electrical lines in any other district other than District 1 and 2?
Where they touch the city limits, they're largely in District 1 and 2. They're not all in the city.
So in other words, if we were going to place or approve data centers, then they would be located in Districts 1 and Districts 2. Is that what I'm understanding?
Generally, the large ones want to be close, to a big power line. How big, I don't know. But with the specific use process that's being proposed, the location criteria is general industrial or light industrial, and the specific use permit.
All right, I'm not going to say this again. Any comments like that, you will be asked to leave the room. We've got a time schedule we're working on. We've already gone over it a little bit because of our problems. So let's stick to what we're doing. If you want to make a comment, you have to have signed up and come forward. But if you make a comment from the audience, I won't tolerate it, because you're imposing yourself on other people who've signed up and followed the rules. So we're going to follow the rules tonight in this meeting. This is the last time I'll say that. Thank you, Mr. Hackett.
Can I finish, though? Because, so what we've clarified is that data centers, because of where the ERCOT electrical lines to support the data centers would then be located in Districts 1 and Districts 2. That is confirmed, right?
That's where a lot of the larger lines are. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and this goes back to the governor's letter and demand, some of that generation that's going to be required by these data centers has not been built yet. So there will have to be an expansion at some point of some of that additional infrastructure that hasn't been taken into account. But
I think the other part of, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, is that District 1 and District 2 already have all of and most of the industrial companies as it stands. So now we, could potentially have all of the industrial, and now we're going to add all of the data centers. Somehow that just is a little bit concerning to me, and but this is about the public input, so I think that I'm going to just step back and let the public give their input.
All right. All right, Eric, are you finished? Are you done?
yeah, I don't have anything else unless y'all have any more questions. So.
Okay. Any other questions for Eric from the council? All right. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Now we're going to move on to our next part of the meeting. Let me remind you, it's going to be moderated by Abner Uresti. tonight. He's going to announce and call the speakers up. He's going to call 3 at a time. And so when he calls your name, if you're one of those first 3 he calls, please come up and take your seat here to my right, to your left, those 3 seats. You'll step to this mic here. You have 2 minutes to make your comment. There's a timer over here which you can see. Then be prepared when number 1 is done. Number 2 will step forward to the mic, make your comments or ask your question. Then between number 2 and 3, Mr. Uresti will call an additional 3 people forward. All right, so you will take your seat here and you'll be ready. And that way we can keep moving through and not waste a lot of time in between people wishing to speak. We want to get, if we have 60 people, we might be able to get through all of them tonight. That's about what I estimated for 3 hours. We will be here for 3 hours from when we begin, including a break right in the middle. But I think we can get through the 60 who have signed up tonight, and that's going to be our goal. But the only way we can meet that goal is if you are respectful to the people and we don't have to pause or I don't have to stop them to get control of comments from the audience. Okay, so please be respectful to everybody. So Mr. Uresti, would you please come forward? And we will take a 20-minute break. You're free to come and go during the meeting if you want to through the back doors. We're happy to have Mr. Uresti here, and he will take over from this point.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all for being here today. I want to introduce Lacey Rose. She is the Director of Communications and Public Engagement for the city, so she is helping me out. Everyone has to have an assistant in case things go wrong, and you can blame the assistant. Now, I do want to say this out loud. By the way, the 3-hour time doesn't start until I'm finished, so don't worry, I'm not taking up your time. In the interest of allowing as many people as possible the opportunity to speak within the time we have available, we respectfully ask everyone to refrain from applause, cheering, booing, or other audible reactions to speakers' comments. We appreciate your cooperation in helping us maintain a respectful and efficient hearing. We have a 2-minute timer here on the right side, that 2-minute timer. We also have, is this working? Is this going to work? We have the red light that will come on once it is 2 minutes. Folks, I'm going to be pretty strict about the 2 minutes. I know that's not a lot of time. I hope some of you have rehearsed your speech because it's going to go by fast. And I am going to make sure that we stay at 2 minutes per person. So please understand that going in so that I won't have to apologize and you won't think I am rude. I've only lost control of an event that I've emceed or moderated one time. And I quickly regained control when I said, "Let us pray." And I said a really long prayer, so be forewarned. But I don't think that's going to come to that. I have full confidence that we are all going to have a very civil discussion tonight. So we were going to start with Randy Christian, Riley Rodriguez, and Kylie Rabel. Kyle Rabel. You're our first 3 speakers. If you'll come and take these 3 chairs up here. And again, as the mayor said, when we have the second speaker who finishes talking, I will call up the next 3 so you can take your position so they can be on deck and we won't have a lot of lag time there. Okay, Chris is not here. We will add Joshua Shankles.
Y'all ready for this? All right. My name is Riley Rodriguez. I'm actually from Abilene, so I'm kind of the ghost of data center past here. I've been traveling around the area, kind of letting cities know that are considering this or thinking about this, what they can look forward to on the ground level, that what we're seeing in Abilene. Today I heard a lot of discussion about energy and resources, zoning. Those are all really important. But we've had a data center, it's got 51 towers in it. And what we're seeing on the ground are impacts that need to be handled immediately. These aren't impacts that you can take some time and study. Some of the social workers back home at Big Country Family Services are seeing recovering families, young families, low-income families shoved into tiny dwellings because their rent has shot up. They don't live on the south side of town where the mall is. They live on the north side of town where the data center is. Disabled folks, like the one I met Saturday who's bound to a wheelchair, has seen her water go up $200. Nobody's got anything to say about it. We have hard-working Texans in Abilene, manufacturing jobs like a man I met named Adam, who are stuck in his apartment because he can't afford to give up the rent, because he doesn't have to pay his utilities with that rent, but he wants to move into another house, and he's stuck. And he's going to be stuck, regardless of what happens. There are effects that happen immediately on the ground, and I want to urge you as a city to take that into consideration. Take those people that are going to suffer today into consideration, because they don't get 3 months. I don't know about you, but if I had to live on the street for 3 months, I'd have a little bit of trauma. I might have a little trouble getting over that. But that's what we're seeing. You could speak to people at Beyond Trafficking. We have increases in human trafficking. We have increases in homelessness. These are impacts on people, breathing, living people. For what? Some cat videos that can morph into a dog? What are we doing?
Riley, thank you.
Consider it.
That's your time. Thank you. Kyle Rabel.
Howdy, y'all. Mayor, City Council, thank you. My name is Kyle Rabel. And like Riley, I've traveled across all of West Texas, and I can tell you, I completely agree with everything he just said. In Abilene, the costs have skyrocketed to the point people are out of their homes. That is not something we can handle in West Texas, and especially in Lubbock, because we already have a homeless population that we are incapable of doing enough for here. I also take issue with the fact that we're comparing cotton fields and homes to data centers. Cotton produces for us here in West Texas, and we live in our homes. Nothing is given to us from these data centers. We cannot prove that these data centers bring jobs, which has been what we've been told is the economic driver for choosing to bring these here to Lubbock in West Texas. Unless we decide to have a community agreement with these data centers and force them to hire West Texans to build, maintain, and staff these places, which we have not been able to, these serve no purpose in our community. We gain nothing from having data centers. They do nothing besides noise pollution, light pollution, and take our water. Unless we are willing to compromise our entire identity of West Texas and stop growing cotton, probably stop raising cattle, then we need to stop having this conversation, push it away. This does not help West Texas, and especially we should not be building it in city limits where our folks, the poorest folks, tend to live, which is exactly what our plans have been before, and we keep skirting around that issue. We should not be building it in District 1 or 2. It should not be in the city, and it should not be built in Lubbock or Lubbock County at all. Thank you all for your time. Thank you guys for having this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Rabel. Let me call the next three people up: Malik Williams, Corey Alexander, and Jennifer Alexander. Jennifer Alexander, if you would come up, please, and take the seat right there. Thank you. Joshua Schenkel.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Joshua Schenkels, Lubbock Compact Foundation, Lubbock County Democratic Party. That was a very nice presentation. I'm a little bit irritated that we gave Mr. Atkinson full 25 minutes to pre-butt everything that folks wanted to say, and folks, the public gets 2 minutes to address those things. Let's jump right into some of those problems. Those are all nice and fine regulations. The problem is your governing record has shown you cannot be trusted to actually deliver those regulations for us. And you cannot be trusted to make a deal on our behalf, and I will describe why. The number 1, 2, and 3 concerns of citizens on that list were all environmental. Well, you and I both know that it's going to be on those people to police the environment, because the city does not police environmental concerns in any way, shape, or form. Nor does the state, who has a toothless regulation entity that doesn't do hardly any regulation of environmental concerns. We had to go secure a federal grant to check air quality in the city, which the city could have done at any time. Nothing is stopping you from monitoring, but you wouldn't. So we had to go do it. All of these environmental regulations will be on you to police, people. Number 1, 2, and 3 were environmental concerns. The dead last, revenue and jobs. People don't want the money, and we don't want the jobs, and we don't want the revenue. We want our quality of life, we want our way of life, we want our peace and quiet, and we want our water. The water that we saved, the tax and ratepayers, the people who use water, we saved that water, and we paid for it. So we want it. It would be morally and ethically wrong to put this on the north or east side of Lubbock because they have asked us repeatedly to stop doing that in no uncertain terms. Mr. Mayor, you said that was the worst moral offense that this city had ever done, racially segregated housing and zoning policy.
That's your time,
Keep
Mr.
your word.
Shankles. Thank you. Malik Williams.
Hello, everyone. My name is Malik Williams. I am the Democratic candidate that's running for Texas House District 83. I'm speaking today because I believe politics is all about what the people need. And I'm sorry, but who the hell asked for an AI data center to be here in Lubbock? No one. People asked y'all to lower the cost of housing. Instead, y'all decided to give billionaires tax breaks to put these corporations into our city. People ask for cheaper grocery prices, and we are living in a food desert right now, people. Everyone needs help, and y'all decided instead of giving people lower costs for groceries, let's give them more AI data centers that's going to reduce our water, put stress on people for electricity, and yet people are in need right now. People are asking for lower costs when it comes to child care services. You have parents working 1, 2, even 3 jobs just to survive. I myself have had to work paycheck to paycheck. How dare y'all? People need help. People need better from y'all, our representatives, but you would rather give tax breaks to billionaires and corporations. Nobody asked for AI data centers to be put here in Lubbock. I've walked the streets talking to people. Kyle Rabel has walked the streets talking to people. Riley Rodriguez and so many other candidates have talked to the people of Lubbock. Nobody wants these AI data centers. Everybody needs more help. They want things to be more affordable. And I see you looking at the time, but it's not going to stop me. People want more. Give them cheaper housing. Give them affordable groceries. Give them health care. People are sick right now. They are having to scrounge up their savings to ensure that they have enough money for their medication. They have to choose between paying rent or being healthy. That is not a choice that they should have to make in the most...
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for your time. Corey Alexander.
Good evening. I'm a grandson of a local farmer and a technical professional with 25 years in technology design, development, support, and I'm adamantly against large-scale data centers built near developed communities. From my research, data centers seem to be little more than shiny, trendy corporate drains on communities where jobs and revenue generated are not kept local, okay? We are not fooled about job creation brought by these projects. They are largely temporary, and large-scale projects tend to lead to increased prices for hotel rooms and other related amenities, thus competing directly with sporting events, graduations, concerts, and so on. City leadership has already committed to make Lubbock a magnet for tourism and visitation, but large-scale data construction projects would leave little room for affordable tourism or visitation to our city. Further, I've learned that practically all data center projects are offered tax breaks or discounted utility rates, not the infrastructure, the rate. Everyone in this room already knows who makes up the difference in those situations. We do, in the form of higher taxes and utility bills. Any benefit offered to them will not help us locally, not in long-term jobs, not tax revenue, not culture, art, or any meaningful way. Data centers consume vast amounts of water, often pushing aquifers beyond natural replenishment rates, causing wells to run dry or drop. Electricity is also consumed at drastically increased levels. Lubbock already has published restrictions on water usage, and we've experienced events regionally where utility providers have struggled to keep the power on during high demand or weather events, sometimes with tragic results. Has city leadership prepared a commitment or implemented a firm, documented, and legally binding plan to limit consumption by data centers first? Prioritizing might bring us some degree of comfort. If no such plan or commitment exists, then that says a lot about the priorities. We cannot water crops, raise livestock, or sustain our bodies on ones and zeros. People and wildlife before data centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. If we could have Brooklyn Duval, Jaden Scott, and Isidro Gutierrez come up, you'll be the next three. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Alexander, and that was my big brother who knows all about technology. I, however, do not. I am just a regular girl. I am, like many in this room, have deep roots here in West Texas. My beloved late grandfather left the farm, went to World War II to fight, and came back to this place he loved to raise his family and be a steward of the land. My father has been in water-related industry and manufacturing here in Lubbock for over 60 years. So I understand full well a steadfast respect for our natural resources. It's a way of life here. It's not just a means to a paycheck. I grew up here in Lubbock, although miles away from the farm life. But the lessons my grandmother and granddaddy taught me, my parents passed down, and my teachers taught me here in LISD are with me every time I brush my teeth, wash a dish, or think about doing something drastic because of the bugs in my backyard. I think about my personal impact on our ecosystem. Like my neighbors, I pray for rain, feel guilty when I take a long bath because I want to read just one more chapter, and I can easily pay my water bill. But years of drought weigh heavy on us, and we are tasked with being mindful of our consumption as regular citizens. And it boggles the mind to think that we have, and that we would invite a resource-hungry data center into our community, our lives, especially when we can only estimate the cost of this imaginary data center. What happens when they exceed the demands presented in studies? Obviously, I use technology all the time. I'm reading this from my phone. I can't tell you all the zeros and ones and the bytes and the gigabytes and the water usage, right? All I can tell you is this, that our state, our nation, our planet, wars have been fought over resources, and scarcity breeds fear. I don't want us to be scared. Put reason over want, human need over corporate greed.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Brooklyn Duval.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Brooklyn Duval. I am 15 years old, and I live in Idalou, and though I don't live within the Lubbock city limits, I have family that lives here. My dad works in Lubbock, and all of my cousins go to school here in Lubbock. So today I am here to speak on behalf of my loved ones, most of them which live in districts 1 and 2. So I am here today to tell you that any data center proposal before you will represent an unfair trade-off that will hurt local families far more than they will ever help them. Despite Governor Abbott's order blocking data centers from charging families for new power lines, local utility bills are still likely to highly go up. A single massive AI facility consumes an astronomical amount of electricity, drastically shrinking the region's overall energy supply. Because of basic supply and demand, this sudden grid strain forces wholesale power prices to skyrocket. Since Lubbock residents choose retail electric plans tied directly to these market rates, local families will ultimately face higher monthly bills just to keep their lights on. We live in a structurally drought-prone region where water is our lifeblood and our most precious resource. In our dry climate, we must ask if keeping computer services cool is the best use of our most precious resource. If we allow our water supply to be funneled into cooling computer microchips, we are directly endangering our local agricultural economy, stunting our future housing development, and threatening the long-term drinking water supply of my generation and the children that come after me. An industry that depletes our water, strains our electricity, and generates near-zero long-term careers is mathematically incapable of providing a net benefit to Lubbock. Therefore, I strongly urge this council here to stand up for citizens, protect my family's future, protect the future of kids to come after me, and to vote no on any data center proposals.
Thank you, Brooklyn. Jaden Scott.
Hello, my name is Jaden Scott. I am a student at Texas Tech University, and I've lived in Lubbock for 5 years and the South Plains for my entire life. We are in this room today because the larger state government of Texas has not stepped up and protected the cities within its borders from outside organizations. We saw the chart showing who has development authority. Our state has a loophole allowing large-scale data centers to be built in a different county without their development being governed. These guys up here are right. If we don't allow a data center to take root in Lubbock, they will just move it outside the city limits. This doesn't mean we should bite the bullet and allow data centers here. Rather, we should make sure we don't get a data center in this city or near any of our neighbors. We should not lower our standards and say, well, we already use a ton of water, so who cares if we use even more? We'll just plant some more trees around it. We should be raising our conservation standards and decreasing our water usage to 10 billion or 9 billion gallons per year. Elections are coming up, and I encourage everyone in this room to find who has been the most against AI data centers. Some of those politicians, like Kyle Rabel and Clayton Tucker, are here right now because they care about this issue, and they can tell you who they think can not only represent Lubbock, but all of Texas as it gets hotter and drier each year. I appreciate the city holding this meeting. I implore the city officials to do what is best for the people in this city, not for the profits, not for growth, but only just do these things for your neighbors, because your neighbors won't care about more jobs if they have to move because the Ogallala has been depleted. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could have the next three come up. Take your seat. William Griffith, Naida Marie Gonzalez, and Susan Stewart. Isidro, it's your time.
Has it started yet? Mr. Mayor, my comments today are about public health. I believe that the primary responsibility of government is public health, and there is a problem with all data centers everywhere, and that is that they emanate low-frequency noise. Now, this noise that comes from the data center travels through the air and through the ground, and it reaches long distances. Any data center that is located inside the city limits of Lubbock will invariably reach large areas of neighborhoods and businesses, and the low-frequency noise is known to cause pressure on the chest of people and also on the ears of individuals. It also affects livestock and pets and wildlife, and so that low-frequency noise is hazardous to health. And since the responsibility of government is to protect public health, then I recommend that you abandon the idea of building a data center within the city limits. There is no way that you can avoid that noise from reaching homes and businesses and people. And the there's only one way to mitigate low-frequency noise, and that is to build a data center far away from any of the developed communities, away from the city limits. I recommend that you coordinate in cooperation with the city with the county and state government, and develop ordinances that will keep data centers a safe distance away from people.
Thank you, Isidro. William Griffith.
Right, got to make this quick. Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is William Griffith, born and raised in Lubbock, Texas. I currently work in the IT department of a local financial institution. Many people in here probably bank with us. And working in IT, obviously the issue of AI gets brought up a lot. It's a very ubiquitous thing. It's just part of daily life. So obviously, as you can probably guess, I'm on the side against the data centers. Okay, this is bad stuff, folks. And I'm not here to make all the arguments that have been made before. Water, other types of pollution, noise, light. Those concerns have already been brought up by my fellow citizens much more articulately than me. I'd like to make a little bit more of like a, dare I say, like philosophical point about like the rise of emerging technologies and why you should kind of be wary of it. What we always see with new technologies is that they always lead to kind of immediate improvements in like a material sense, but they almost always have detrimental effects long term as far as the mental, physical, and spiritual well-being of mankind, right? Take the car, for example, right? It's certainly the most impactful technological innovation of the 20th century. And what did that represent? It allowed us to go more and do more as humanity. But fast forward 100 years, and what do you have now? Entire cities built around the car. And, you can't really be a functioning member of society if you don't have a car. So it went from having, the freedom to now you're not free to not have a car, okay? But anyways, this particular piece of technology is growing at such a rapid pace. And it would, given the universal opposition, it would not be unreasonable to assume that there may be some financial incentive for the people in power. I just ask in conclusion, please do not hoist our descendants into a dystopian nightmare just because some people can't write their own emails.
Thank you. Thank you, William. Naida Marie Gonzalez.
Let's go down. Good evening to all of you. And all of you, thank you for being here. Thank you. Right off the bat, let me ask you to imagine your life without clean water. Water is life. Ever since the governor came out with his big push to give tax breaks to tax data centers, some rural people in Texas, I was rural once, have been left with nothing but dirty water. They don't tell you about the heavy metals that are put into the aquifer and the water systems. They don't tell you that the usage goes up exponentially over time, and that's a massive amount of water. Do you think that's sustainable? I don't think so. These companies, and in my neighborhood, I live in East Lubbock, I have water pollution. My well is poisoned. The air is toxic. I have noise pollution. I have light pollution. I have it all. Nevertheless, I wouldn't live anywhere else. These companies are used to intruding and invading our neighborhoods. Our opposition is of no importance to elected officials. You do not listen to us when we say, not in my backyard. We have no political clout. Well, I am here to let you know that where I'm from, the city, the tiny town that I was born, we have a saying, and that is, that dog don't hunt anymore. I'd prefer to be optimistic, not pessimistic. But we're fed up, and we have come here to burst your bubble. Data centers are an existential threat to our neighborhoods and to humanity. They will replace your jobs with AI and use them to invade our privacy. Look up Palantir. No longer will you, the decision makers, not be held liable for the premature deaths and injury to our neighbors, friends, and relatives.
Thank you, Naida. That is your time. Thank you. Now, as Susan comes up, we'd like to ask Zefania Garcia, Clayton Tucker, and Camille Webb to come up and take your chairs, please. Susan.
My understanding was that I would have more time, and people have donated their time, but I'm told that that's not going to be possible. We're told these facilities will either build their own natural gas generation or pay up to upgrade the electrical grid. Neither claim eliminates the impact on our community if they are connected to ERCOT grid. They will still rely on transmission infrastructure, new substations, transmission lines, and interconnections, which became part of our landscape. And if they build private gas generation, that introduces additional industrial facilities, emissions, fuel supply, infrastructure, and noise. The question isn't whether they'll provide power, it is what new infrastructure our communities will be expected to live with for decades. Grid upgrades aren't free. We need to know who exactly pays, not just for construction, but for future maintenance, expansion, and replacement. Citizens should never have to have the cost shifted to us. Can the city guarantee in writing that no future transmission upgrades, substations, expansions, or reliability costs associated with these centers will ever be passed on to Lubbock residents and businesses? I'd like to point out that infrastructure built for one large industrial user user changes what comes next. Once high capacity power infrastructure is in place, it becomes easier to attract additional energy intensive developments. Tonight's decisions aren't just about one data center, it's about the industrial footprint we're choosing for our future. We have the right to know how much municipal water will each facility consume over its lifetime, and who will independently verify these numbers. We're asked to conserve water because supplies are under pressure. If conservation is important for households, it should be equally important to evaluate a 24-hour facility we will have for decades. Closed-loop systems either use water or electricity to cool. We have the right to know the expected annual water demand and the peak day demand. If the water demand is truly insignificant, as these developers will have you believe, then will they publicly commit to reporting its annual water consumption this evening? As far as the diesel generators, we're told not to worry about backup generators because they are for emergencies, but large-scale data centers don't just leave
Thank you, Susan. That's your time. Zefania Garcia.
Zephaniah, yes. So, to continue on with her point, with the side generators, all the ones you've shown in your examples were just the ones that were net positive, such as renewable industry. But as we've seen with past data centers that have had side generators, like the one up in Alabama that was used for Gronk, it can cause health problems with breathing and such as more. We have seen people get things such as asthma become severe and develop chronic cases of COPD. Is there any way y'all can guarantee to the people that this would not happen here, that none of our health would be in risk from an AI data center entering our city and harming our people? There have been multiple towns that have been both abandoned and barely fighting to stay alive based off data centers being in them. Can you prove to us that that wouldn't happen to our districts 1 and 2? Districts 1 and 2, which already have enough problems going in as it is. There are enough happening here without the idea needed to light a fire that's going to destroy more of our city, starting from the Northeast. We're already letting so many problems happen there and develop. We're not working on them. We're not addressing them. The people of the community would love to be a place that could just have better resources, better requirements, not just a place of part of our city we're going to let be destroyed by an AI data center because it's going to bring apart too many pollutants and too many health issues to people. Thank you.
Thank you. Clayton Tucker.
Mayor, can I ask for whoever does speak to get close to the mic because it's hard to hear?
Well, I raise goats, so I talk very loud. So howdy, my name is Clayton Tucker. I am the Secretary of the Texas Farmers Union, and we are calling for a full moratorium on these data centers. Now look, y'all, I know these data developers will promise you the sun, the moon, and the stars. Thankfully, this is where us ranchers come in. Having been raised around cattle, we know what bull smells like. So let me tell you 3 stories, and that'll be my time. Let's talk about Memphis, Tennessee. They've promised Memphis, Tennessee, again, the sun, the moon, and the stars. They said they will build their own power, they'll have their own cooling system, water, yada, yada, yada. Everything I'm certain they're telling y'all. They built that data center in 120 days. It doesn't take that long to build a data center. You're not building a power plant in 120 days. So they put 23 massive diesel generators, actually methane ones, and now the NAACP is suing them because they're creating a new cancer alley in Memphis, Tennessee. Is Northeast Lubbock going to be the new cancer alley? And another gentleman mentioned that the noise these things create. And I talked to a lot of farmers in Texas and everywhere else. There are some farmers who have not had a new calf in multiple years once a data center came up. I've talked to folks whose chickens stop laying eggs, and they create heat domes where temperatures can be as high as 20 extra within 5 miles. Last I checked, it gets a little hot in Texas. So maybe we should really put the brakes on this, and let me end with this. Look, there are 5,000 data centers already in the United States. We have more data centers than basically the entire world combined, more or less. So when they say we need these things, do we? Because I don't know about y'all, but the moment I started talking about data centers, they put a damn flock camera right outside my ranch. Is this about data? Is this about AI? Or is this mass surveillance? We need to know what they're being used for before we approve any of it.
Thank you, Clayton. Okay. Thank you. Would the following people come up, please? Steve Rogers, Mike Haggard, and Pam Stinnett. Camille, it's your time.
Good evening. My name is Camille Webb. Thank you for having us today. The impacts of large-scale AI data centers are not being fully considered due to rush and demand, and rural, lower-income communities are being targeted as a result. I was born and raised in Lubbock. My partner is from, Morton, Texas, a town of 1,200 people about an hour west. There are developers looking to build centers out there as well. I love West Texas, and I know y'all do too, but these developers do not. They have money, and they think that means they can build whatever and wherever they want. Data center and crypto miner operators were asked to participate in an optional survey by the Public Utility Commission of Texas about water consumption, and less than a third of them responded. The numbers we have on these centers do not tell the whole story. Developers need to be transparent about the energy and water demands and consider the repercussions of multiple large-scale projects on the same depleting aquifer. Residents of Morgan County, Georgia are experiencing brown, undrinkable tap water after a Meta data center was built in their town. Families have to ship clean water to their rural homes to use for absolutely everything. Meta denies these claims, and the EPA has not launched an official investigation, as most of these residents rely on private wells that are not regulated under government water quality standards. One resident in Hamby, Texas, noted a major influx of snakes on the road now that their habitat is being destroyed to build yet another data center. One example of the many environmental impacts being glossed over as these projects are frivolously carried out. There's not enough evidence to prove that this will not have a negative impact on our community. The 2027 Texas Water Plan completely ignores the data center surge. There are currently 335 data centers already in Texas, with at least 248 more in the works. We should be doing everything we can to preserve our land, wildlife, and resources. I urge our officials and representatives to freeze and reconsider any data center construction until impacts can be more thoroughly considered. There has to be a better way.
Thank you, Camille. Steve?
Hi, my name is Steve Rogers. It's interesting, and I really appreciate all the comments that have been made. I'm going to be brief, but I think AI is a good thing. I think it can really help. It's interesting, all the comments were probably done from a lot of research from ChatGPT. But my bottom line, I would like to ask the council is what economic benefit is there to the average citizenry of Lubbock, Texas, to have this? Shouldn't that be the bottom line? What is the economic benefit to me, to others? Are our taxes going to go down, or are they going to go up? Are water rates going to go down or go up? Are we going to get anything out of it? Would anybody like to answer that? Just one thing you've considered, maybe talked about.
We're just getting citizen input.
Yeah, we've said we're not going to respond tonight so everybody can have a chance to ask their question.
Well,
but yes, that is definitely something we will. We didn't want this to look like we were out there promoting economic advantages
I know, but
tonight. We're talking about
has
concerns.
that been discussed? How is that going to benefit the citizens?
No, you're asking the fundamental question right there.
Yes.
That is the fundamental question.
Are we going to find that out?
Schedule a meeting with your council representative. That's what you can do.
A lot of that comes once you have a specific data center coming, and then, what do they want to build? What would be the tax impact? We don't have one that we're dealing with, so we can't really lay that out to you until we get an actual one. So that's why we can't answer your question tonight. All we can tell you is how we are approaching this issue. But you raised the right question. You really
Has the data center courted the city, or has the city courted the data center?
Well, the city is not courting them. They are courting the Lubbock Economic Development Association. That's where they go. They don't come to us. They go to Lubbock Economic Development. But none have come to us for any approvals at this point, but the one that did come to P&Z and was voted down. All right, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Mike?
Hello, my name is Mike Haggard. I wasn't going to speak here today, but I have to. First of all, I want to thank you guys for hosting all of your voters to hear our concerns. I've heard a ton of concerns. The biggest one I have is the water. I wish we'd get together like this to get water right now. There's, to the north and to the south, there are homes that have no water. People are drilling wells, and a lot of them are out in the country, but you're talking about growth. We've had 40,000 people since whatever the date was. We're going to keep growing, and there's no water out there right now. So it's already an issue with the water. And Mr. Atkins showed the slide that had the mega houses, which I do not have. I don't live in her district, and thank you for bringing up your concerns for your district. I'm concerned about your district, and I live on the other side of town. The small houses, like I have, we don't irrigate like the $1 million houses. The ones I saw up there, most of them were other maybe Tech Terrace, were big 1 to 5 acre $1 million houses. I don't have one of those houses. If you put my water on there, what I use, it's going to be like this. It's going to be a little bitty. The savings you were talking about, we're the ones saving all that water. Y'all get onto us for runoff and all that stuff, which we appreciate. It's keeping us from wasting all that stuff. But then we're talking about, bringing in something that uses the amount of water they do now and trying to compare it to $1 million homes with acreage that are irrigating. It's not. Compare it to her district. I'm with her. Compare it to what her people are using. They're either not irrigating their lawns or their small lawns. They're not wasting all that water. So it's a waste of water. I'm all about saving the water. So that's my biggest concern is the water waste. There's other you could live without irrigating and all that, but water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could have Caleb Fryer, Anne Marie Monaco, and Eric Haley come up and take your place. Pam.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. And my name is Pam Stinnett, and I'm a lifelong
Step a little
resident.
closer to the mic, would you? Yeah, thanks.
My name is Pam Stinnett, and I'm a lifelong resident of this region. Growing up with grandparents who farmed, I was taught early that human survival relies on 3 fundamental pillars: food, water, and shelter. Right now, proposed data centers threaten all 3. Just 10 days ago, I drove from Lubbock to Plains. The stark contrast between our stunted dryland cotton and irrigated fields is a flashing red light. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, 100% of Lubbock County is in active drought. We just survived our 14th driest start to a year in recorded history. Right now, the city legally forces every citizen to restrict lawn watering to protect our grid. How can we justify rationing water for local families, yet handing millions of gallons a day to an industrial data center? It will decimate our agriculture and drain our shared aquifer. Furthermore, placing heavy industry on the northeast side perpetuates a dark history of discriminatory zoning. The residents of Northeast Northeast Lubbock matter, yet they are being asked to let this facility degrade their shelter and health through 3 invisible forces. Number 1, infrasound, low decibel, hums that cause neurological stress; light pollution, a constant glow disrupting sleep cycle; 3, particulate matter, toxic
Pam,
diesel
that's your time.
emissions.
Thank you. Caleb.
Good afternoon, Councilman. My primary concern is water. Without it, I live out in the country. Our way of life will cease to exist. Our farmlands will die. Our cows will die. That is the first thing that goes. None of our stuff is piped into city. It is all groundwater. We all run off of the Ogallala Aquifer. If it goes, we go. There is no way to run that. It's desal drill. None of us can afford that. That's 1,200 feet, and then extra infrastructure to process the water. And we can't do that. Second is electricity. It is constantly rising, even with every precaution that we have taken with LED lights, anything that cost saves. But the primary thing that we're worried about is freezer space. People that are in the country, they have food saved. They buy in bulk. They save. They budget. If our electricity goes down, whether it's rollovers or blackouts, you will kill years' worth of food overnight. There's no way to come back from that. Third is I'm on SPEC, I'm not on ERCOT, but we do back up the main grid when it goes down. And that has happened before. And I have lost food and even plants when I ran hydroponics for like culinary herbs and small like berries. Lost my entire crop. So I can't run that anymore with rolling blackouts. Third, AI data centers were said that they're going to do crypto and AI. That's track tracing and CBDCs. That is against our republic. It should not be allowed to stand. We should not participate in that. And lastly, who gets held to account when they come and destroy our way of life? Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am an expat. I am from Florida, and I brought my family here to live the Texas way. I also am a little concerned that you guys really don't know what's happening in the data centers, knowing that in Michigan, they're making humanoids to train and sell. That is another thing about Trump's executive order that makes them militarized, not just ChatGPT making fun garage sales. But on that matter, I'm here as a parent. I have 2 kids that I do not want to be affected by what's going to happen when AI comes. I don't want them to get diseases or learn things that we don't know is going to come back. Basically, my children are going to be AI's test subjects. I want to highlight the issue of transparency. They don't have any, and either does this council. Most of the time what we learned when they did the big one for Texas was that most people did sign NDAs. As you stated, you did not, but I do not trust that anybody on this board would not. I think we need to realize as a public that we can dismantle you and vote it on November, no AIs in Lubbock, Texas.
Thank you. That was Anne Marie Monaco. If we could have the next 3 come up, Denise Colley, Corey Austin, and Josh Chavez.
I'm not so worried about water as I am character. So you're supposed to represent us as the people. We just passed 4th of July. We had a country that was built because people didn't want to listen. The grievances were brought. You can go to YouTube, you can listen to all these people, you can see all the bad stuff that's happening with these data centers. So it's crazy to me that you would consider pushing it forward. The fact that you're going to put it on the east side of town, okay, everybody knows why, which is not right. It's not right. The Amarillo project that's just been done, Lubbock Matador stuff, Tex aligned with that. They're on contract for 2.5 million gallons per day. Whether they use it or not, they have the contract to take it. Hopefully they don't. It's a closed-loop system. Closed-loop systems still require water. You're going to say it doesn't use as much water. They don't need that much water there. It's everything outside. It's the energy that's being made. It's the other pieces that are being made for it. The only guy at the May meeting that was honest about anything was the Google guy. And all he said was, we'll throw money at it. If there's a problem, we'll throw money at it. If we run out of water, they don't care. They won't be here. We'll be here. Most of us would say that we're Christians. This nation was founded on Christian principles. Whether you want to follow that God or not, that's the right that you were given based off of those principles. You get to choose what you want to do, but you have to do it within the boundaries of what the Bible says. And the Bible says to take care of people. You've been put on the board to take care of people, not for you, but for the common good. And there is no common good for AI data centers. Drive around Lubbock, look at all the flock systems. Every time you get online, you're trapped. Why do they need data centers? They're going to collect more and more data.
Thank you, Eric. Denise?
I just want to say that there's been a lot of legitimate concerns that have been raised by everybody that's been up to this podium. And you, as our council members and our governmental representatives, I hope that you would absolutely take everything into consideration and be that body that is for the people. Listen to the people. They're talking to you today, and they've brought up some amazing facts, things that I learned today, and I know many of us here have. So please consider, prayerfully consider what the people are telling you. It doesn't sound like it's a good idea for Lubbock, Texas.
Thank you, Denise. Corey?
Hi, I'm Corey Austin, and I did have a statement planned, but y'all did that lovely slideshow, so I'm going to respond to some things on that slideshow that I hope y'all take into consideration and you ask yourself these questions when you're looking at this particular problem. I noted that you said 100,000 gallons per day was the water usage for a data center. Where are you getting that number? According to Abilene, the Stargate Center, their fill-up rate is $1 million gallons per building. They are slated to have 10 buildings. That doesn't account for evaporation rates. That doesn't account for systematic blow-off, which means they actually take the water they put in the system and they let it go. Where are they letting it go? Where does it go? What happens to it? You also noted that we've obviously had great conservation efforts around here. What for? If we're just going to hand it over to a data center that's not going to produce anything or manufacture anything, why am I conserving water? So please, when you see statistics, start asking yourself why. And according to the Environmental and Energy Study Institute, which is actually an independently owned third-party environmental study institute, they're saying these data centers can consume up to 5 million gallons a day. 5 million gallons a day. That's huge. You can actually supply water for a whole country at that rate. And at the rate they are actually talking about scaling these data centers in the state of Texas. Texas has been in a drought ever since I have lived here. I've been born and raised here in Texas, and water's always been an issue. So why are we even thinking about allowing things in the state, in our county, in our city that are going to draw on one of our most precious resources?
Corey, thank you.
Thank you.
If we could have Paul Scioli, Kamal Patel, and Fabian Mata come up and take your seat. Thank you. Josh.
My name is Josh Chavez, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I had a lot of questions for y'all. A lot of them got addressed. Everything from pollution to water usage to electricity, so on and so forth. Y'all know we do not have electrical infrastructure for this. These data centers consume anywhere between 20% and 100% of what a city the size of Lubbock would do. Where are you going to get the transformers? Transformers are anywhere between 6 months and 4 years out from being able to be manufactured. Not to mention water. Everybody's brought up the aquifer. That's already going to be depleted in 50 to 100 years. I appreciate the efforts for water conservation. Like she said, what is the point? If you're just going to hand it to an out-of-state billionaire that is not from here, does not live here, will not suffer the consequences. That leads me to believe that y'all are one of three things. You are corrupt, you are incompetent, or you are both. But you are certainly neither. That's cause for a recall election. Y'all serve us. You don't serve billionaires. Serve your citizens. It's a social contract. Abide by it.
Thank you, Josh. Paul Scioli.
Thank you all for hosting this. It's a wonderful idea. My name is Paul Scioli. I'm a 66-year resident of Lubbock and Lubbock County. I also own property in Kent County, which is just east of Lubbock. And I've had the displeasure of dealing with, they installed, unbeknownst, the largest solar farm of 1.5 million panels over thousands of acres. And now I am competing right on my back door for a 1.6 million square foot data center. So over the last few years, I have made it my business to understand why and learned about this. And I have. And I've learned a lot. And there's a lot of things that were on those slides that were not accurate. I'm going to give you one example. Noise mitigation. The real word is total noise because of what was mentioned. Understand the word infrasonic. Understand the damage. You can mitigate that. The truth is, after all my experience, and I have all the questions and all the research, I have it stacked this high. I will tell you that these projects could be done responsibly. They won't. And if you deal with these people long enough like I have, you'll find it's not that pleasant. But you must have, and I appreciate those slides because you touched on a lot of those things, a strong enforceable protections to put in place before the construction begins, because if you don't, you can't win the fight. They have the money. So all the concerns that were brought forth, I understand, and they're all accurate.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Fabian?
Yeah, my name is Fabian. I live in North Lubbock. I happen to be in attendance to that planning and zoning meeting where the California guy wanted to get the zoning changed to put that 900-acre thing, dump. And I was there for another reason. Ironically, I was there for Ordinance 6323, 1972 city ordinance, that pretty much says the same thing that y'all are going to do to try to, if you put the data center, noise mitigation, planting of trees. That ordinance says the same thing. And we got Triple C concrete polluting it. There's no trees. We got Permian Basin materials, 401 North Avenue K. We got DC Caliche crushing, recycling concrete right above the canyon lakes, violating the ordinance, no enforcement from city. All of you got my email. And city manager, you've yet to respond. 3 weeks. What part of the ordinance allows pollution in the Yellow House Canyon region? Ordinance 6323 is being violated, and you're proposing we're going to have noise mitigation too? De jure and de facto. You can write it in the law. Enforcement is not there. I know Walker. I know the stormwater people. I had to file a complaint at Texas Commission on Environmental Quality Fraud. Admins in charge of DFW, Amarillo, Lubbock, and Big Spring for fraud. Because the rock crusher, DC Caliche and Nuggebauer, Hard 8 material, are crushing right above there. Concrete is even more polluting. Recycled concrete is even more polluting than regular concrete because it's got paint and material. It's disgusting. Why haven't you all responded? Why are these plants allowed to operate right there in the Canyon Lakes Policy Zone? I still await your response. You did a half response, Martinez, but that didn't work out there. The city staff planning, that didn't work. I want the specific. Anyway, I want specifics. And yeah, Texas Tech has a Matador thing. Don't bring up Texas Tech anymore, please. They have the Matador project.
Thank you, Fabian. Apparently, we had a no-show, so if we could have Jordan Chisholm, William Murray, and C.C. Lawrence come up, please. And Jordan Chisholm, you'll be first.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you, City Manager's Office, for having this event for everybody. I appreciate the proposed zoning changes, closed-loop cooling, noise mitigation, berms. I think those are all good ideas. But I share the same concerns as a lot of our other citizens in that they have not very much faith that anything will be done to enforce those regulations if they're in place. Texas is a very permissive political climate for businesses and not for the environment, for their citizens, the water, and hopefully we can enforce those zoning requirements if we do in fact have a data center built here. There are some issues with the slides. For example, I know we mentioned 100,000 gallons of water per day. The average hyperscaler data center uses over 1 million gallons of water per day. Now, that's not a closed-loop system, adiabatic cooling versus forced air, just something to mention. Thank you. I'm not opposed to data centers. Unlike a lot of people here, I understand they're important. You know, they're important for national security. They're important for the U.S. economy. But we have to make sure that we protect ourselves, and we protect our families, and protect our city before we invite something like that in.
Thank you, Jordan.
William Murray, so I'll go ahead and jump. I don't want to cover utility costs, resources, things like that, because I think there's been an amazing job done with that so far, so I'm just going to try to jump in and cover some other things. So the accountability, I think, is a big issue for me, because the issues that we see showing up wouldn't be an issue if these companies were not running counter to the community that they're in. If they wanted to be good stewards of the community, we wouldn't be running into these problems. It's not like they just invented closed-loop cooling. This technology already existed. They deliberately chose not to do it because it would save them money. How do we hold them to account when we know that that's what they're going to be going after is the financial incentive? Another thing that I don't really see coming up a lot right now is the safety. So how will the safety of the public be considered? There's reports that there are people who are coordinating malicious activities, citing that irresponsible development of AI data centers as one of their motivating factors. This included the group of people that were arrested plotting to attack the president's UFC event. They had this motivator among their others. So given the immense public backlash that we're seeing not only here but all over, it seems like we have to logically arrive at a conclusion where there will likely be harassment and malfeasance, if not outright violence, against the structures, the people who build, maintain, and staff them. We can act like it's a foregone conclusion that we need to jump in bed with the devil so that we can make a deal, but what we're talking about when we're talking about making a deal is the thread count on the sheets. Do better. Look at how we have communities across Texas working. San Marcos and any other growing number of resources that we can do right by the people in the communities who live there, not right by the people who are just trying to save money by picking us to build their data centers down.
Thank you, William. Now, as CC comes up, we can have the next three people come and take your seat. Calvin Trossel, Michael Homer, and Stephen Sanders, please. Thank you, CC.
Hello, my name is CC Lawrence. I live in District 1. And if you want to learn about me, you should check my website, not a Palantir database. The concerns over our constitutional rights, water usage, environmental hazard, privacy, and a general fear of an Orwellian future are valid. But I'm here to discuss the finances. There is no reason for the City of Lubbock to offer any incentive to any company wishing to buy our land and use our resources. To the contrary, data centers are so widely unpopular that I feel those companies should incentivize us. I've lived and voted in Lubbock for 20 years. Consistently, Lubbockites have wanted better schools with school lunches that don't resemble whatever Aramark found almost spoiled in the back of a hot truck. Lubbockites want clean parks with safe trails, affordable community events, more sports, nice roads, paved alleys, decorative streetlights. Lubbockites want Joyland back. All these wonderful things we can't afford, right? Well, they can. I'd rather have Lubbock as it is now than blindly trust some tech bro jerk because he paid some senator to squawk about job creation and global competition. Take care of your people here and now because the moral mishandlings surrounding democratic accountability and corrupt loopholes for the obscenely wealthy perpetuate our economic and social problems. Once you open a dialogue with other cities who use the same water sources as we do and unite to get the better end of the deal, we the people will prove we don't need them. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, CC. Calvin?
Well, good evening. Thank you for having the hearing. I appreciate it. I appreciate your comments. I've learned a lot. And so I've lived in Lubbock 27 years. In my area of Lubbock, I irrigate my yard from a well. And so some of the water issues that the city faces don't affect me directly, but I work in the agricultural sector, and so I think in terms of what I do in my job is I help farmers in West Texas grow their crops in the presence of frequent drought. And I was very interested in the numbers that you showed about the water data use. I think the 100,000 gallons per day is probably a very low end. When I calculated some estimates, I used 300,000. There are some very large data centers that use much more than that. But the concept of a closed loop is I think is worth pursuing, making that a standard. But I think in terms of what I've looked at the data, and the number one concerns that we had in terms of what we saw here is that water was the biggest issue at the top. It was around 90%. But after listening to things, I think maybe water is not the main issue, because the amount of use at the 35 million gallons a daily use is actually relatively small. But this is what we live with here in Lubbock, is the water restrictions, the guidelines for conservation and so forth. And when I first started to learn about this topic, I thought, why do we even consider a data center where it rains less than 25 or even 30 inches a year, and we have renewable water, which we have neither here in West Texas? And so also I think as I looked up the map, I appreciate districts 1 and 2 raising your concerns. I think that right now, without annexation, there's not room in the city of Lubbock to build a data center. It would be outside the city, which we may not have control of. But I think the things we've talked about here tonight could be a guideline for the region, as our rural communities don't have the resources like Lubbock has to evaluate the concept and the benefits
Thank
of
you,
the data
Cal.
center.
Michael?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be brief, I'll be concise. I'll give you pros and cons on these data centers as I see it. Supposedly, there's job creation. Not really. There's a relative handful of construction jobs that will happen pretty much right away in the construction phase. Beaton Bow Brothers employ more people long term than any data center will. After that, after construction, it's IT maintenance, period, full stop. After that, AI proponents say they'll invest in power grid, roads, and fiber optic networks. I'll believe that when I see it. On the opposite side, the cons to this. Energy consumption. Data centers can use as much electricity as a small city. If somebody with LP&L will come up with the numbers for the kilowatts used in the city, I'd love to see them. I think Lubbock qualifies as a small city. Water consumption. Data centers consume millions of gallons annually. Had a conversation with people at the water department about a year ago. They said we've got plenty of water. I think the number he used was, I can't remember, but I think between 50 and 100 years. That data center, using your numbers, Mr. Atkinson, 100,000 gallons a day, that adds up to 36 million gallons a year. By the way, the conversation I had with the people at the water department, that conversation happened before the concept of data centers was even a topic of discussion.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Now, Stephen Sanders comes up, but we have Larry Smith, Susan Bettis, and Anson McFall. Come up, please.
Thank you so much for having me. I just wanted to thank the mayor for having this meeting. We talked about this when I protested them at the Texas Tech meeting, so he did keep his word and have a meeting. I thank you for that. But the problem is that I can't even believe we're here talking about a data center when you know that the people don't want one. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Here's the other part. Why are you putting it in East Lubbock? They're not going to, your friends won't allow you to put it in Southwest Lubbock. Your friends. I know them. They know me. And you don't have a backbone to stand up to these people and tell them, hey, my people of Lubbock don't want that. It doesn't just affect those people in North and East Lubbock. It affects everybody in this city. We want our water. We've been saving our water. That's on us. My yard is yellow as hell because I'm trying to do what you asked me to do. But you can't listen to us and just say no. Just say no, man. Do it for your people. Do it for us. I voted for you. I voted for you, and I endorsed you. And I'm expecting you to turn around and stand up for me like I know you can. You're a Baptist preacher. And you know that when we're not taking care of our people, we are letting Christ down. You know that. You have the power, Mark, to lead us in the right direction. And we're watching you. If you don't, I'm going to recall you in November. You know it. You know it. Christy, thank you so much. Gordon, thank you. I'm watching you. I hope that you'll do the right thing. You're new, so I'm going to give you a break.
Thank you, Stephen. Larry Smith.
I want to thank the council for being here tonight and letting us do this. I've been on a school board before. I've been on that side of it. It can be a little tough, so I appreciate your time in doing this. That school district actually was right next to Roberts County, where you're pulling about 30% of your water. So it's a little close to my heart as well. A gentleman said earlier that Fermi can pull up to 2.5 million gallons per day. I also read that it can escalate even up to 10 million gallons per day. That is concerning. That's concerning because they're part of Cromwell. We're part of Cromwell. What defense mechanisms do we have in place to keep them from taking, which basically is our water, whether it's there or any other part of the line coming down here? Do you have defense mechanisms to protect us in that? That's one thing that concerned me. The other thing is if you do bring a data center comes here, they're coming here for a reason. They're coming here for the water. They're coming here for the tax base, to not be taxed too much from somewhere else. Do not give a tax break. Do not give a tax break. You provide all these services, they need to pay them. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Susan Pettis. Susan Pettis not here. What about Anson McFall? Anson McFall, no? Okay, let's have Melanie Parks, Jordan Jennings, and John Cadena come up, please.
And after these three, we will take our short break.
Okay.
That's good, because I need to go to the restroom. Hello, Council. My name's Melanie Parks, not affiliated with Melanie Park Neighborhood or Melanie Park Church. I am my own entity, Melanie with an A and plural with an S. So when I say my name, people say, that name sounds familiar. Not affiliated with that. Councilman Harris, I'm so glad you asked the question because I have an answer for you. The layman term for a data center. And I'm going to put in a little biblical term with it as well. We need to stop calling them data centers. They are surveillance centers. They are data collection hubs. Behavioral tracking warehouses. If you know, you know. If you don't know, read the Bible. What we have setting up is just like China, a social credit score system that we will all be imprisoned to. Some people probably aren't agreeing, but like I said, if you read your Bible, you know this is a digital beast system being set up for the end times to come. Lord, help us.
Thank you, Melanie. Jordan?
I'm here on behalf of my divine authority and all those who look into my eyes right now. You are under judgment to your discernment to stand for we the people and not these corporations. And judgment will be made to those who do not take heed to this warning. You do as we need you to do to be one as a nation and to work together. And if you continue to let this tyranny to happen with big corporations to consume us, you will be given a whirlwind of things that will happen. So take heed to this warning. If you don't stand by we the people will stand up and you will have nothing to hold. That goes with our food being poisoned, our water being overfilled with chlorine. We've been targeted long enough, and it's going to happen, and you all know it. So if you don't get on the right side right now, you're going to be a part of the future of what was and what the future will be by not standing by us, the people, no matter what species you are. Because we can all do this together and make this world better. We have to let go of our ego and pride and make this world better by not consuming it and taking over Mother Earth and making it even hotter and drier to make this nation prosperous and not just a slave system.
Thank you, Jordan. We're about to take a break, but John Cadena, you were up next. Are you okay?
Sorry. Thank you. So I came here today just because I personally was very ignorant on this topic, and I wanted to kind of get all the information I could. I came in here with my concerns. I'm leaving with a few more concerns. But one question, couple that I did have. One was the District 1, District 2 issue. I mean, come on. I mean, it may be because historically those lines were laid in certain parts of town. I think everyone can probably gauge why those lines were laid in certain parts of town. And now we're seeing, the results of that. That's a major concern for me. I don't even live in those districts, and it's still a concern for me. Another concern I had was we're given these reassurances. One of them was this reassurance by Governor Abbott, so on and so forth. They're paying their own bills, so on and so forth. But I think anybody who's lived in Lubbock for a good amount of time knows that the dollar goes far. I think we saw that most recently with our local university. How if you have enough money, you can make things happen. So that's not really an assurance for me that they're going to pay their own bills when we have many wealthy people who can just kind of throw some money around and maybe those reassurances go away. Another a major concern I have is, as many people have mentioned before, this panel represents the people, the constituents. Thankfully, my representative is not on. It was not my concern, but it is concerning to me that we are here listening to the people.
Thank you, John. At this time, we're going to take a break. I think we're going to have enough time to get through everyone who has signed up to speak. There are bathrooms, restrooms to the east and the south if you would like to take a break, and we will
Set the
get
timer at
started
20
here in 20 minutes.
Let's call 5 up at a time now, because I think we may have some people, the crowd is thinned out, so some people may not step forward. So let's go ahead and call 5 up at a time, Abner, if you would.
Okay, the next 5 are Scott White, Joyce White, Corey Gressett, Glenn Little, and Keelan Lewis. Come up and take a seat over here. We will get started again. It may be pretty quick.
I guess go ahead and call 5 more.
Okay,
Here we go.
Sure, we'll wait a couple minutes. I think they're coming in. Okay. Sure. I think Matt is going to go out there and scream and say, "Get in here now." Say open bar.
Yeah.
I guess.
Go to the snack stand. Help support
Last
your civic
call
center.
for alcohol.
I guess they don't.
That'll get them going.
For those of you who have remained for the second half, I think everybody's handled themselves really, I think, well tonight. Appreciate that very much. And I watched a lot of these online, and I always believe that Lubbock is able to do these things right and in a civil way, and you've shown that tonight. So we really do appreciate it. I know there's a lot of strong opinions on this. A lot of have been shared tonight, but thank you all for how you've handled yourself. So, all right.
Okay, Matt gave me the thumbs up that he has made the announcement out in the hall.
So go ahead and call 4 more, I guess.
Okay.
Let's see if we can get 3 up here, because we need to get started.
Let's go with Corina Quattlebaum, Ann Haggard, and Nick Marmolejo. Any of you here?
All right. And let's call a few more to see if we can get our 3rd up here.
Ann Haggard? Ann Haggard? Scott White, Joyce White, are you Corey? Okay, Corey Gressett, Glenn Little, Keelan Lewis, Corina Quattlebaum, Ann Haggard. Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and get started.
Corey, come on up.
Hi, my name's Corey Ann. Mayor, I'm speaking to you Christian to Christian. Mayor McBrayer, I asked you once if you were a follower of Jesus, and you responded with, yes, I am a Christian. Therefore, as a sister in Christ and a citizen of this city that you have been given responsibility over, I must remind you that you are commanded by God to lead, protect, sustain, hear, and provide for your flock, with dignity, godly intention, care, and fear of the Lord. What does your fear of God say about you? On Judgment Day, you will have to account for every careless and empty word that you speak. When you have to look God Almighty in the face in all of His glory, are you going to be able to say that you did the best for your people, or are you going to have to admit that you poisoned the well? When AI inevitably comes to take your job, the alleged money you took and stuffed in your back pocket is only going to cushion the blow when you fall and get shoved off the top and join the rest of us here at the bottom. So make sure to look around you. See the faces of your flock, and remember your people, Mayor. For those of you that are smelling what we are all stepping in, you can join us for free. had a community-led discussion about the honest impacts of hyperscale data centers in our city and what can be done to stop them at the YWCA North Event Room tomorrow from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We have Clayton Tucker coming to speak, who is running for Ag Commissioner, and Stephen Sanders, who is our committee's organizer for Save Lubbock. Come find us in a blue shirt to sign the petition and get these points they made fact-checked. Bingo.
Thank you, Corey. Nick?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Marmolejo. I was born and raised in the north side of town. I'm also a citizen resident of District 4. First of all, I just want to set the tone here by going back to one of the original speakers who said something pretty prominent. He said, are we willing to compromise our identity? This isn't even a statistical conversation. This is an identity conversation. So I want to just, first of all, thank you, great speakers, for going ahead of us. I also want to point out that no one here, no one that I've heard in the city has made a sound argument for why we should even entertain an AI data center. And I'll point to the very presentation that y'all presented here today. I mean, there was something on maybe the third slide that pointed out that there's not even a common definition for a large-scale data center that we've agreed upon. So put aside all the statistics, we don't even have a definition for what that actually is, and that's foundational. So I want to point that out. The other thing I want to say is, in a city, Lubbock, known for moving a little bit slower, doing things differently, why are we rushing this? And we are rushing it by even having this conversation. I want to also point to one more thing, which is there's this undertone I can hear and see in the community about one of two things being true. Either A, there are backroom conversations that are going on that we're not privy to and make this a formality, really, or B, you don't feel you can actually stop the train from coming. It's inevitable. Neither thing should be true. And so I just implore and look out to all of you and just say, let's get off of Facebook. Let's all of us, 600 of us who were here, go find the actual petition. Go ahead and sign up for that so that we can put a pause on the moratorium. So thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Deborah Hart, Nisi Pratt, Brooke Barrett, Patricia Ramsey, and Zan Ango. If any of you are here, if you would come up, please. And we will start with you, and you introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Deborah Hart. Firstly, the noise. This is the second time I've heard trees mentioned to mitigate the noise. Now, I didn't chat GPT this, but I think trees require water, and I also think they lose their leaves every fall. Anyway, Governor Abbott has spent several years courting Texas to get the data centers. His current backpedaling is a massive acknowledgement that the current framework is broken. To avoid the distrust of local government, all applications for specific use permits for large-scale data centers should be put to a vote by the citizens of Lubbock. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Nisi Pratt. Thank you for this meeting today. Economic development should never be about growth and tax impact alone. It should certainly not come at the expense of the use and enjoyment of our land, of our quality of our life, or public health and safety. Data centers infringe on every one of these things, and I think what you heard here today, overwhelmingly, is citizens are telling you there is not a price or tax impact that can convince us to buy out our quality of life or public health and safety. There is not a dollar amount. If you were to put a vote to the public citizens, I venture to say overwhelmingly that they would vote no against data centers completely. And we implore you to not do what data centers want, what developers want, but to listen to your constituents. And in the alternative, if you are not going to ask public, take into account what we want and vote against data centers, then in the alternative, please put a moratorium in place. You have people petitioning for a moratorium. Stand up and take the initiative to put a moratorium in place immediately to pump the brakes on this. That's not radical. It's happening everywhere. And we want you, if you want us to trust you, put the moratorium in place. Don't make us petition you to do it. Once the moratorium's in place, form a multidisciplinary committee, a technical committee that has residents that are a part of it. You've done a year's worth of work without residents. Include residents to help develop these standards. Ban data centers, put a moratorium in place, and put individual projects to the citizens to vote for each project.
Thank you, Nisi. Brooke?
Hello, I'm Brooke Barrett. Thank you for hosting us this evening. Now, many things I was going to say have already been covered very well tonight, but just perhaps a bit of anecdotal storytelling. It's been covered, the infrasonic sound waves that travel through the ground and affect things like livestock. I would also like to mention that Lubbock specifically has a stray animal problem, and it relates to increased violence in those animals. It's upsetting to them, and as somebody whose partner is a mail carrier and serves the city every day, it's already brutal what they experience in terms of roaming dogs. So that's something that's important to keep in mind. And I absolutely also support the concept of a moratorium until further environmental impact studies can be done in these other areas across Texas. And then as these centers have been rising up across Texas, you know, maybe it's small potatoes compared to what large corporations can offer, but I think this is a wonderful opportunity for Lubbock to embody its character as the friendliest city in Texas and to protect not only its own citizens, but perhaps citizens, at least those who have the means and would like to leave communities that have been poorly affected by these data centers to come be a part of this economic community and to, you know, I just think it's a good opportunity to be different, to be leaders of another color, to try and welcome in people who are trying to escape these problems in their own communities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke.
Hi, I'm Patricia Ramsey. One of the first things we are taught when we begin to venture out into the world is to pay close attention to high-pressure tactics, as they are almost always a sign that something rarely in our best interest is going on. We continue hearing this warning constantly at work through emails, for example, saying, if you receive an email using one of these high-pressure tactics, that's suspect. One of the most common high-pressure techniques is an inflated sense of urgency. If you don't act on this right now, you'll miss out completely. Data centers are being built with a great sense of urgency. But why? It's not for the good of the host community. What are they bringing us directly? They provide a remote service which could be provided from any location. How many permanent jobs for local citizens have been promised? What else do they purport to offer to the average citizen? These centers are being built with extreme urgency in order to beat the regulatory clock. I suspect that investors are drastically overbuilding in order to overpower their competitors. But if this amount of power is truly needed, the demand will continue and companies will eventually have to accede to regulatory requirements. And if we wait, learning even more from other communities, we actually put the city in a much better position. One of our greatest abilities as humans is that we can learn from each other and adapt. And in the course of learning and adapting, I believe we will find ways to do better and be better without selling out the local community for a handful of thoughts, assumptions, and suggestions, which is all we have at this time.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you for allowing me a moment to speak. For the board's benefit, am not going to be going over anything else that has previously been discussed, so I thank you for your patience as I try to navigate around the many notes I've made throughout today's presentation. My name is Zan Argo. I was born and raised here in the High Plains, and I am currently working as a policy analyst researcher at Texas Tech University, and I wanted to present several concerns I had with this bill. Justly, it's public health. The amount of energy that we need to produce in order to facilitate these data centers, whoever will build it, will most likely be done from gas. And we all know that gas generators pump a lot of nitrogen monoxide and nitrogen dioxide into our atmosphere, which causes asthma, and we're going to be trading our children's health for nothing. I also wanted to speak to you, to the members of the board who state we have to keep them here because if we let them go elsewhere, then they'll be unregulated. To you, I'd say we don't care. We are here to speak to them in the city because we will fight them in the city. If they leave and go elsewhere, if they go to the county, we will fight them in the county. If we have to go to the Capitol, we will fight them at the Capitol. We will go wherever they are. We only need you to represent us here in the city. We will take the fight to them. Also, I wanted to say this isn't the first time that the High Plains has been fighting with a billionaire for our water. In 2011, a oil billionaire tried to buy all of Ogallala, around 200,000 acres, and sell it to Dallas. Today, I ask you, are we going to have to do it again? Is the High Plains residents again going to have to spend over $100 million to buy our own water back? And lastly, I wanted to touch on a quote that you had asked. You asked, why should we care? Just in layman's terms, why should we allow this? And it's the demand. But I ask you, who demanded this? Because it wasn't me.
Thank you, Zan. We could have Vanessa Hernandez, Ruben Vasquez, Gonzalo Ramirez, Jessica Sanchez, and Robert Rogers.
Hi, good evening. Sorry. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I'd like to start with my favorite Bible verse, Mark 8:36. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? My question for you today, for what shall it profit a tech giant if they shall gain the whole world's data and forfeit the community's soul? The decisions we make today will determine whether future generations inherit the same Lubbock we all love, or are they going to be left with the remnants of a past we should have preserved? While many data centers attempt to address the water concern through air cooling systems instead, this simply replaces one resource concern with another, as they also heavily rely on massive amounts of electricity while continuously releasing waste heat and operating industrial cooling equipment around the clock. In one of the world's largest concentration of data centers, Northern Virginia, concerns have been raised over the rising electricity demand, transmission lines cutting through rural landscapes, constant generator noise, and pressure on local infrastructure, to name a few. Last month, San Marcos became the first city in Texas to prohibit data centers within its city limits because its leaders concluded that the benefits do not outweigh the costs. And if another Texas community is prohibiting such developments, shouldn't Lubbock take notice? Yes, building facilities creates hundreds of temporary construction jobs. However, the key word is temporary. And once construction is complete, many large data centers employ only a few dozen or at most a couple hundred of full-time employees, despite occupying hundreds of acres and consuming enormous amounts of electricity, resources, and infrastructure. We all have to ask ourselves, are we building a stronger Lubbock, or are we simply lining the pockets of corporate entities and investors while our community foots the bill?
Thank you, Vanessa. Ruben?
Yes, that's fine. Hello. Just want to touch on some of the things that everybody's kind of already brought up. One of the biggest things that I think that I would agree with the most and that people should probably listen to is probably Clayton Tucker. You know, he has some very, very good information about how things have gotten to where they're at right now. for example, and how things have switched, right? Because how does AI serve us? I believe that we've tried touching on that once. And we don't have a definition yet of what they even are, but let's see who benefits most. It's not really regular people who are looking up recipes and making funny videos to put on Facebook or something. It's, you know, big companies that are coming in and, you know, and I think that we need to remember that we're a republic, right? So, but there's a word for whenever, you know, maybe city officials or, you know what I mean, and companies come together to subvert the will of the people. That's called fascism, right? And I don't believe that this is something that is just happening now, but I think, like this lady had said earlier, like there is a very, very like push through. I don't know why. I just think it's kind of strange, but there's something that I heard earlier where, you know, okay, so let's do all this with energy and stuff, but we're in the middle of a war right now. You're like, what are we going to do with that, right? Like, what if everything stops coming, right? And we have these places that are, I think somebody said about diesel, like they got these big diesel generators, you know, and things like that is like, well, you know, we got to kind of make sure that we have what we need.
Thank you, Ruben. If we could have Blaine Shipman, J.R. Ferguson, and Brandon Elam come up. Gonzalo Ramirez.
Good evening. My name is Gonzalo Ramirez, and I want to first thank you, Mayor and councilpersons, for having this forum where we can have that freedom of speech. I also want to thank the people that don't live in District 1 or District 2 that have actually come up here and advocated for District 1 and 2. I live north of Loop 289, within the city limits. I have a private well. I spent 15 years away from Lubbock. I was born and raised, educated here, and job opportunities took me away for 15 years. And when I came back, I decided I wanted to live back in my community, so I built a house 20 years ago in North Lubbock. I have the same concerns as far as water. I have a private well. I have to go 140 feet to get water. I have the same concerns about noise because there are older homes in North and East Lubbock, and so they don't have the soundproofing that newer houses have. So that's my concern with those two things. But the thing that I want to bring up today, or the last thing I want to bring up actually, is the slide that said data centers will only be allowed in 2 zoning districts through a specific use permit. Well, we know now that it looks like District 1 and District 2 will be those 2 districts. So really, I'm asking those of you that represent the other districts, and I'm making eye contact with those of you that are not in District 1 or District 2, because I really want you to support the idea of not having these data centers in District 1 and District 2. If you want to have that conversation with data centers, that's fine. My only question that I would ask, that I would want you to ask as part of the overall discussion with data centers is, what technologies are you bringing in? Thank you.
Thank you, Gonzalo. Jessica?
Thank you for taking this time and staying. I don't want to repeat what everybody's already questioned. I have those questions written down. But I just want to go back to, I live right on the line between the city and the county, and where the data center was going to be put previously. And my question is, why Lubbock? The developer was coming from San Francisco. My mother grew up there, and my grandmother's house was built in the 1920s, and it's worth $1 million. So it's a 4-bedroom, very simple house. Why Lubbock? Because we have cheap land? Why? We already know we have problems with water. I have one other question. If there was one built and they had to use solar panels, what about the light and the heat on the airport? Has anything been looked into as far as that? And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Robert Rogers? Robert Rogers, no. Blaine Shipman?
Thank you for letting me address y'all tonight. Many of the concerns have already been addressed. I had prepared remarks, but kind of set those aside. Really, I want to get down to the heart of the question that is being asked. All of these concerns are valid. The environmental concerns, the water concerns, the land use concerns. But the question is, what is going to give us the most control at this point in time? Is it going to be passing the moratorium and waiting on the state to give the county more power to regulate these? Or is it going to at least have a mechanism for us to cope and at least to push back on these power brokers? Individual citizens, we can come together, but without the backing of y'all and without a system that y'all come up with and help us to come up with, we can't push back on that. And my worry is if we just say no wholesale, they will go out to the counties. They will take advantage of Texas law. They will express their rights as landowners of Texas to have unfettered access to all of the water under that ground with no regulation, no oversight, no care in the world for the actual community that we have called home. Some of us for decades, probably a few of us in this room for centuries. So thank you for your time addressing me. Please take this into consideration. And to everyone who's spoken tonight, thank you all as well.
Thank you, Blaine. Okay. If Matthew Conklin, Rebecca Komarek, and Mason Patton, if you'd come up. In the meantime, J.R. Ferguson or Brandon Elam.
I'll be brief because everybody pretty much covered my concerns. I will start off with saying I think this meeting came about in the wrong order. I think the citizens should come first, and then the council addresses the citizens. If the citizens wanted a data center, it should have been presented. But going on, Lubbock, Texas receives an average about 19 inches of rain a year. Your charts confirm we don't get water from here. It comes from everywhere else. The worst drought I experienced, I believe like 2011, we had maybe 5 inches of rain. And a large facility drawing water will dry up wells, and it will leave people without water who rely on wells. Even a mid-sized data center can consume as much water as a small town, which, say, roughly 50,000 people, will consume roughly 5 million gallons of water in a day. There's different ways of cooling data centers, of course. You have air. One of the bigger concerns is noise pollution. I don't believe the decibel ratings that you had up were entirely correct, because around 200 feet outside the perimeter of a mid-sized data center, the ambient noise level is 65. So imagine a hairdryer next to your ear for infinity. Clayton Tucker did cover this. The ambient heat that these facilities give off can raise surface temperatures around the communities 3.6 degrees at the lowest, and sometimes as much as 16.4 degrees. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want a 124 degree day in West Texas. Now, I'll end by saying I just hope the council listens to the people. It should be the people first, followed by who represents them. We give the orders, right? Or we make the request and you represent us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brendan. Matthew?
I'm Matthew Conklin. First, like he said, you represent us, and so I don't see what the problem would be with having a referendum, just voting on it. I mean, we the people seemingly don't want it, and I don't see why we couldn't just all vote on it. Secondly, I know, I can't remember someone got upset about someone saying bingo. There's a bingo card out there that has all these lists of if this is brought up, it goes on the bingo card. Yeah, it's a funny joke, but in seriousness, like, people are predicting what the fake platitudes and promises are that have been given to us by these people, and they're predictable because they're over and over and over again. Well, there's data centers out there now that have been out there, and people are being hurt by it, and it's being documented. There's lawsuits and health costs and all these things that go along with it. The data's out there. A lot of people have brought up a lot of that. Even just that being out there should be enough to just say, hey, let's not do this. And that kind of goes back to our priorities, which there was a gentleman, and I'm not trying to knock him, but he said, how is this going to affect us economically? That wasn't the number one priority by 90% of the people that came up here and spoke. It was health, it was pollution, it was water consumption, electricity, all these different things. Economics is down here. We don't want it here for all these reasons. And so, yeah, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Rebecca?
Yes, I'm speaking tonight for my niece. She couldn't be here. She just had a baby. I'm just really tired of my voice not being heard, and I don't understand why this country is just allowing people that have money, to just control everything and act like the rest of us don't matter, like we're not important. This is our country just as much as anybody that has money, and we have rights. So I just don't understand that, and I don't, let's see. I don't understand why we can't vote on this, just like he said. And I've seen the drinking water on TV for, I believe it was Georgia, and it wasn't only brown, it was dark brown. And that's the drinking water that the citizens had to drink and bathe in. We're already being, they scaled back all the regulations for the EPA, and we're exposed to so many chemicals and contaminants, and now you want to add something else. And I've also heard that children living within 10 miles of a data center have lower bone mineral density. I don't understand why you would want to put our children at risk for something that a tech billionaire wants, and I don't understand what the urgency is. All of a sudden, they're just building all these data centers against the people's will. And I know, and I feel it, that it has to do with mass surveillance, and they want to take away our rights and probably turn this into a dictatorship. I don't know, but that's what it feels like. And I've called my Congress people, and they ignore me. I've called them every day. As a matter of fact, they laugh. I'm tired of it. I'm a citizen. This is a democracy. We have rights, and the people's voices need to be heard.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Hello, my name is Mason Grant Patton. I'm actually a new farmer. I inherited 2,500 acres. My mother passed away in January for it. Don't think it was a fair trade-off, but you take what you can get. So a lot of the stuff that was on this slide wasn't correct. I figure water for a living. We use around 35 million gallons of water a year, which is a lot, but that's for a farm like mine, which configures with the 100,000 gallons a day, but that's for a small scale data center, not a 940 acre one. That adds up to around 1.5 to 5 million gallons a day, or 365 million gallons a year. That's way more than what they were saying right there. I feel like that was pretty false what they were claiming. But not only that, don't get me wrong, I'm proud to be part of this, but I don't understand how this benefits us. I know it's been said a lot, but how does this benefit me? I mean, they're collecting data on us, building a profile on us. How does that help us? And they're keeping this all in this data center. Well, who's to say some like country like China or Russia can't access that, hack into that, and then breach our livelihoods? I don't think that's fair for each and every one of us, especially as Americans. I think we have a right for that. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all letting me speak.
Thank you very much, Mason. If we could have Rebecca Lindsay, Michelle Wilkinson, Addison Hightower, and Kevin Allen come up. And Michelle, you will be first.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time and attention today. Michelle Wilkinson. I'm just a gal from Lubbock. But I do want to reiterate something that has been said repeatedly tonight, and that, what is the hurry? What is the hurry? If we are so smart and technology is moving so fast, can we just take a moment to see how this affects other communities? Right there in Abilene, we can watch our neighbors going through the same thing that we're signing up for. Also, I want to point out, when we're doing the planning for this thing, we don't have to act like there's an imaginary data center. We have real life examples with real data that show that there are negative impacts happening in the communities that just put these things in. We're not even 5 years out. The last thing I wanted to say is that I just implore you guys, we're a little bitty town, a little speck, up against the interests of corporations that have more money than independent nations in the world, than some of the nations in the world. And we need people who have vision and who have foresight to look and stand up and say, I love what you're doing. This is great. We got to slow down. We got to slow down. Let's wait. Let's at least let our state legislature meet and talk about the safeguards that they need to put in place for oversight, for well-being, for what are they going to do when the multi-billion-dollar company doesn't play by the rules like they said they would. How do we hold them accountable? But I thank you all for your time, and I hope you take this all into consideration.
Thank you. Has Rebecca Lindsay spoken? Rebecca?
No, I have not, but I've been looking forward to it. My name is Rebecca Lindsay. I live in Lubbock. I have since 2017. It is not about data. It is about mass surveillance. We are the data. They are collecting everything on us, on our kids. There is more information in the data centers regarding my granddaughter, who is less than a year old, than there are of most of us who have been here forever. That it is about control. There was a young lady who was tracked from Texas to Arkansas, I believe, using 83,000 flock cameras. Where are they keeping that data? This is all about control and mass surveillance. We are making digital prisons for all of us. And those with money can buy their way out. And this is, I mean, when you look at the rich, who Elton John, who thinks because he donates to $1 million that he can fly an airplane, a jet, wherever he wants, but we have to set our thermostats at 72 or conserve our water. The rich get no negatives out of this. It keeps coming on the back of the American taxpayer. We don't need data centers. They are not good for anybody or anything that regards natural, God-given rights. We are a constitutional republic, not a democracy. A constitutional republic. Read your Declaration of Independence. There were 21 grievances in that declaration from 56 men. And there were A, B, C, D, E parts of some of those declarations, of those grievances. We had to take care of business as our forefathers needed to take care of business. Stop letting them buy us out. That's all we want, to be natural and to be healthy and to have our water available to us.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Healthy.
Addison Hightower.
my name is Addison Hightower, but more importantly, I am a local Lubbock educator as well as the daughter, granddaughter, and relative of generation upon generation of ranchers and farmers from Childress, Texas. I can't bring you a bunch of data on data centers, and people have expressed my concerns today here, but I am going to tell you about what's going on in Childress because it's real, it's what they're living, and it's what Lubbock might see if we invite them into our community. Childress is in a stage 4 water shortage. That is less than 2,615 feet of water and only 6.1% capacity in Lake Greenbelt. They didn't know a thing about data centers coming into their community until it was said and done. It's not within the city limits, it's within the county. That is a huge problem. It took everyone by shock, and it has brought in a lot of problems with it. Traffic has become increasingly dangerous. It was already dangerous considering there's Highway 83 and Interstate 287, but it's backed up through town. There's many wrecks and fatality upon fatality, including the DPS officer who was recently killed, who I graduated with. Crime and assault cases have significantly risen, and the grocery store shelves are empty. My family cannot get all of the supplies that they need in their hometown, and that's something that would not just happen in a small community, but could come to here too. Apartments are being sold and people are being locked out of their rental properties. That's not only a problem, but people also don't have a place to go after that is said and done. And as an educator, a concern that's been expressed to me is there's a constant cycle of children in and out of schools, which increases stress not only on an already stressful profession, but as well as on the poor children who don't even ask for that. And we talk about jobs and this creating jobs, but for Childress, those people were brought in to construct them. It was not local people that constructed them. It's given very few jobs within the community. And someone said earlier that, they promise that they'll throw money at it, but that doesn't buy back our livelihood, nor does it buy back our ranch land or water.
Thank you, Addison. As Kevin Allen comes up, we would like to have Noel Zavala, Elena White, and John Macias come up. And Kevin Allen is next.
All right, my name is Kevin Allen. I'm here today as the patient advocate of the state of Texas and the president of Lubbock Young Republicans. And I think a lot of the questions that should be asked are not getting asked. We need to be asking, what would a data center do for Texas Tech, Health Science Center, Medical Hub of West Texas, and the healthcare system here? My brother works in healthcare and has significantly improved his part of Texas over by Vernon, Texas. There are multiple aspects that are not being looked into. We have solutions for a lot of problems that have been brought up that we can talk about and discuss at another time. They're real easy to fix. I'm not going to get up here and grandstand and perverse the Bible like James Tellerico and his supporters would, but I think we really need to pay attention to the work that's been going on in the development. I spent most of last month in Dallas, Texas, fighting for big pharma, healthcare companies, medical equipment suppliers to come and develop here in Lubbock, Texas. And I can tell you that at some point we're going to need one of these AI data centers for the healthcare system. I warned in 2024 if we didn't update infrastructure at the Texas Tech University Health Science Center, UNC would suffer internal failure. And sure enough, we did for several months. That type of data center can be used for medical and healthcare, something we need to capitalize on in Lubbock. There's a lot of restrictions and regulations to look into, and thank God for the Lubbock Fire Department that gives us one of the best bargaining chips that we've got that allows us to have these discussions. I think as long as we're mindful with the restrictions and policies and the oversight, good. You allow them to go outside city limits and have free reign and do what they want, we lose our chance, we don't have a say in it. We can't complain when everything goes wrong afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Noel?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Dr. Noel Zavala, born and raised in Lubbock, Texas. I spent my college years at Tech studying ecology and the environment, and I want to thank the community for addressing the concerns about the environment. Because they already did that, I wanted to mention something else. At present, I'm an OB-GYN here in town, and I deliver 250 babies a year. I feel greatly privileged and am incredibly honored to serve this city. So how do data centers serve us? That question has been asked repeatedly. My peers here agree they don't serve us. In fact, they actively cause harm. So I wanted to share a new term I learned recently. It was published in Nature magazine, never scaling, a term that addresses the phenomenon of relying on AI during the learning process, with the consequence of not actually learning, failing to build basic critical thinking skills that are necessary to tackle advanced problems. These are people problems. Additionally, learning and memory recall has been shown to be poor when using AI. Your brain doesn't light up when using AI in the same way it does when you get creative and problem solve. It atrophies. That's bad. Think about what that means for your future teachers, lawyers, spiritual leaders, politicians, and healthcare workers. So yes, I agree. Let's learn from the mistakes that others have made. Let's invest in people, not in data centers.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zavala. Elena White.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elena. Myself and my family, including my 67-year-old mother, live in District 2, here in Lubbock. Her yard is also, to quote Stephen Sanders, yellow as hell from conserving our water. The presentations provided this evening mentioned that we have excess water and electricity. However, we're experiencing forced rolling blackouts and being asked to conserve our resources. We all seem to find that to be a pretty interesting contradiction. The presentations tonight are also bringing in numbers on usage for theoretical data centers. They're nowhere near accurate numbers for other centers around us, and I would ask that you all take the time to look those numbers up yourselves. You can't tell me that these other cities and other communities that are around us didn't have conversations about their excess resources or their infrastructure themselves. Whether it was behind closed doors or in front of their constituents, those that chose to allow these data centers to be built are actively experiencing the negative effects. A data center in Lubbock, Texas is unnecessary. We're having a discussion tonight about what sort of precautions we can take and specific use permits that we can use to protect our communities. Several people here this evening have asked for all of you to protect and care for what we have now, and protecting our communities and resources would mean preventing the building of an unnecessary essential resource vacuum. I thank you all for hearing us all out. Good night.
Thank you, Elena. Now, as John Macias comes up, we would like to ask Cole Daniel, Crystal Vallejo, and Adrian Lowen to come up, please.
Hello, my name is John Macias. I was born and reared here in Lubbock, Texas. I grew up on the east side. I grew up on North Ash and East Stanford. I walked to Estacado. I spent my whole life here. And I can't help but to think that this whole idea is just a definition of systemic racism. It will be a political choice that will disproportionately affect minorities. And that being my community, and that being my neighborhood, and that being where my dad lives now, it's already hard enough. It's already hard enough over there, and it's just wild to me we're even considering this whenever there's so many people against it, and this is not a new phenomenon. We've seen enough to know that there's no reason to rush this decision, and there's absolutely really no reason to consider it until, as many people have said, there's state legislation against or to protect its citizens. So I really urge y'all to do your job and protect your people, your constituents, and please keep in mind that the amount of infamy and the amount of shame that will happen if this doesn't, you will historically let down your community more than any other politician, and we're really looking for y'all, to come through for us, because right now with the affordability crisis, it seems to me that Lubbock can't even protect its citizens from predatory business practices of the electric companies. So I'm a little bit nervous that it's going to go the people's way, but this is how it should be. We're tired of the welfare system for the elite class, for the billionaires, for the Epstein class. We're tired of how our government never seems to work for the working class. During COVID, we were essential workers. And now what are we? Our communities are going to be taken over, the noise pollution, the water pollution, the environmental factors, and there is no type of economic possibility that could possibly outweigh that.
Thank you, John. Cole Daniel.
Good afternoon. I'm a Lubbock native. I'm a fourth-gen Texas Tech student in computer science, and I'm a technician at a local technology company here in town. I am going to discuss AI as it pertains to data centers and shoot down the pie in the sky that a lot of businesses will lobby you with for building data centers. The tech itself is not evil, but the current adoption is not viable long-term, and I encourage you to research it beyond lobbyist speeches, including mine. I have a few points. A handful of companies accruing vast majority of the revenue, while Anthropic and OpenAI, the companies developing this technology, are hemorrhaging money. And the rest of those companies subsidize the service to make it viable for consumers. That can't last very long, and we shouldn't be left with the debris when it ends. Second, ask what value it brings. Like we've been saying, software engineering, my field, is one of the best cases for it. But benefits are not measurable relative to cost in my field. More lines of code does not directly mean more value, and so we can't say that it's making it better. You can abstract into the niche cases where someone does the hard thing and makes a good thing with AI, but that does not outweigh the irresponsible rollout and the worsening of general software and security that harms everybody. Third, data centers host few jobs while the tech is being sold in the media for the sake of eliminating them. The reality is that they cannot replace us, but it can give companies probable cause for layoffs. Personally, I think the whole thing is just for the sake of centralizing compute away from consumers, so companies don't have to deal with our demand for the right to repair and true ownership of digital assets. But all in all, because it's not profitable for the owners, not the low-hanging efficiency boost that was promised, and it's an incentive to eliminate jobs, it would not be responsible to host it here or elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Cole. Crystal? Crystal?
Yes, that's great. Thank you. Hello. Thank you all for being here. I mean, it's late. Thanks, everybody, for voicing your opinions and sharing your experience and concerns. I am a Lubbocken, been a Lubbocken for many, many years. I do some things behind the scene that I don't really address quite a bit of. I'd like to touch on me personally and my experience in the community. Hearing some of our community's concerns over the infrastructure of it all. It is concerning, but just doing my best to stay educated, doing my best to ask questions and attending these events. They're very helpful. I am a mommy of 4 beautiful kiddos and married to my husband for some time now. My questions for y'all, and I really hope that y'all can really take these in. I do live in the heart of Texas. The heart of Lubbock. My questions to y'all are, how does this project align with the goals of making Lubbock a place where young people can stay, build their careers, and raise their families? Another is, what guarantees are there that this development respects private property rights and concerns of surrounding communities? Also, what lessons have we learned from other cities that have welcomed larger scale developments like this, data centers, both private and both positive and negatively? What does that look like? And if y'all could possibly provide more strategic line items, I stress that, and give more
Thank
information
you,
for us.
Thank you. As Adrian comes up, we'd like to have Tristan Pettis, Kyle Abernathy, and only have initials TB come up, please.
Hi, my name is Adrian.
I appreciate y'all giving us the floor tonight. I'm against building a data center here in Lubbock, and I just wanted to voice some questions that I think we would all kind of have before we ever consider putting something like that here. So I'm just going to list them off. Some of them have already been said, but I'm going to repeat them. So who would keep these data centers accountable if they overuse their water, if they overuse their power? I know there's regulations in place, but who's going to actually hold them accountable and keep them to those limits? How can we be sure the city won't prioritize them over us in these water power disputes? If there's a strain on the grid and there has to be rolling outages or something, who's going to get the outages? Is it going to be the people or is it going to be the data centers? It's my understanding that the data center in Abilene, they got an 85% tax abatement. Is Lubbock willing to give up all that tax revenue as well to a data center? What is Lubbock's plan for the depletion of the Ogallala Aquifer in 20, 30, 40 years or whatever it will be? What happens when 60% of that water that we have right now that he talked about goes away, or 42% once Lake 7 is in place? What do we do then? Also, I believe he mentioned that none of this water actually comes from Lubbock County right now. I don't know that boasting about getting our water from these rural communities is really something to brag about. And I just want to know how Lubbock can be a leader in West Texas and set a standard for not allowing these large corporations to come in and bully and do whatever they want. They're building data centers in small towns like people have mentioned, and they don't have the resources or the voice that Lubbock has. So how can we set a standard for our surrounding small communities? And if anyone wants to sign the petition, just find someone in blue. You can sign. Thanks.
Thank you, Adrian. Tristan?
Hi, my name is Tristan Perez, and I moved to Lubbock at the beginning of this year. I'm originally from New Mexico, and a small town in New Mexico, just like Lubbock, and I've grown to love Lubbock a lot. And me and my husband are planning on having a family here, raising our family. My mom just came to visit me. I want to bring my family here and all that kinds of stuff. And I wanted to touch on a subject that I've heard Clayton Tucker touch on before as well. And I just want to say that I have a concern about these farms near data centers, the cattle, just everything, pigs, chickens, all of that. They're having stillbirths and mutations in their babies. And so what happens if you build one next to Lubbock? What happens to the pregnant women and the little children? What happens to all of that? Are we going to have mutations, just genetic disorders, all of that crazy stuff? And that's something that's really, really, really concerning me, because there was another family, I believe, in Minnesota or Wisconsin, I believe, and her little boy had terrible migraines and constant ear infections, and they had to move away because of it. And then another one in Morgan County, Georgia, Meta built a massive data center. They have clear-cut it for us and began heavy construction in May, and families in the area have seen their water pressure and water quality decrease. Their appliances have stopped working due to water quality. They now rely on bottled water to drink, cook, clean, etc. Their water bills are expected to increase by 33%. Their water is the color of the red clay that in the mountains of New Mexico. That's how red it is. Red, dark, brown, everything. Full of sediment, rock, all of that stuff. And most of these AI data centers come with zero regulations or guardrails.
Thank you, Tristan. Thank you. TV, Kyle Abernathy. Kyle, if you hold on a second. We could have Cassie Green, Stephen Glenn, Irving Quant, and Sequoia Erntner. Y'all are the last ones on the list. If you'll come up and take a seat. And I think we're ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Council, for hosting this forum. I've heard a lot of people speak about the very valid concerns about natural resources, public health. I've seen charts about the offset of tax revenue. My concerns are more far-reaching. These other concerns, local, more immediate. But as a few people have spoken about, I see more concern with the surveillance aspect of it, and the global, far-reaching end game of what the data centers are actually doing. What is the data used for? Information is power. Information is economic advantage, and information can definitely be a tool of societal control. I see this all in the big picture. As huge as these data centers are, and as much of the natural resources could be used, harmed, and I see Big Brother is what I see. I see the infrastructure that ultimately can lead to things that people don't like to talk about, like social data scores. Ultimately, as we lose jobs to AI, the specter of universal basic income, and how that can, the digital currency connected with that can be cut off, our access to our own money, loss of personal freedom and controls. Anyway, Big Brother is looming. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. TB, did TB ever know?
Good evening, everybody. Hey, thank you for taking my time. Allowing me to speak. And I just want to say I have the similar concerns as to where this is all going and what's being planned in advance, that it's outside of more from a federal level, and how that is going to be then converted into each person having a certain value to them, and more than just this is tax revenue for an average citizen, and how by making things more digital and allowing that infrastructure to take place, they can lead to exposure for us as a county and less sovereignty. And I'm really concerned about the implications as future generations who are accustomed to this type of service, and how that can then change how we view certain things in our own governance, so federally. And also, as many have previously mentioned, just as far as taxes and whatnot, and where that leads to. So, but also, I think that a lot of the farmers are worth listening to. So,
thank you, Cassie Green.
Thank you guys for having this meeting. I actually drove all the way from Amarillo to give you my personal testimony. I listened to the podcast all of the way here, and I cried the whole way, because my husband and I have a business out of Amarillo, but we do more than half of our work here in Lubbock, and we were planning on moving here. And I implore you not to do this, because y'all are going to be my safe haven to run from for me, America. So I again, want to thank you for this. I'm a Texan from Randall County and Amarillo. Currently, we're plagued. We're plagued with a monstrosity of an AI data center, claiming to be the biggest AI data center in the world. Yes, I'm talking about Fermi America. The Matador Project. Why on earth did our city council decide to sell our fresh water straight from our Ogallala aquifer is beyond me. They started off selling them 2.5 million gallons a day of our precious fresh water. The contract says that they can go up to 10 million gallons of water a day. You know what? To me, data centers are just like the devil. You give them a little bit and they take a mile. They're already using wells, not just the contract water agreement. They have set up the wells in the acquired land that they've gotten, and they're doing the right to capture. They're using that law for their benefit, as all AI data centers are doing currently and will do. how foolish of us in Amarillo to think that they were just gonna stick with the plan. Lubbock, I implore you, please learn from our mistakes.
Thank you.
Don't make a deal with the
Thank you,
devil.
Cassie.
Don't do it.
Stephen?
Hi, I just want to say I'm impressed with everybody's speaking ability and passion for speaking up and paying attention, and thank you to the community for that. I wanted to kind of flip the question on its head. How much money would we pay if we had a data center here to kick it out? I feel like it would be bigger than the $3.8 million a year. Like, if you were to ask Amarillo or these other Childress, these other places, like how much would they pay to kick it out and return it back to how it was? I think they'd pay quite a lot more than that. So I think that's just not. That's okay. I got it. The second thing was about the decibels rating. So that's a measure of how loud things are. So there's dBA, which is a measure of sound loudness as it is perceived by the human ear. Then there's actually something called dBc, which incorporates more of the low-end frequencies. The human ear only hears down to about 20 hertz. So if you were to make a regulation, you probably should include the lower frequencies below human hearing that also affect or have physiological effects on animals and humans. But I mean, that's kind of in the weeds if you think about it. Let's say the regulations are perfect. Let's say the enforcement is perfect, which I think we all are pretty skeptical of that with the amount of time and effort and money it would take to monitor them and create reports and go back and forth. But let's say the enforcement is perfect. At that point, you have to ask yourself, are these people regulatable? Like, ask yourself, can you regulate a multi-billion-dollar international corporation? You can't do it. Like, they can get out of it. They have the power and the means to do it. So I think just that alone, it's like inviting a tiger into your house and saying, oh, don't worry, he's going to pay rent. He's going to keep the rat population in check. It doesn't matter. You can't control it. So don't invite it in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Sequoia? Oh.
Hi, I'm Sequoia, and I think reality is pretty real. And I stand for what's real. That is why I don't really like data centers, and I do really like statistics. And I would like real statistics to be used in this decision and spread to everyone that needs to hear them. Not that are cherry-picked to make one group look bad or good, but that show the best, the worst, and the middle of the road. And I want numbers, I want exacting standards and uncompromising oversight to maintain those standards. I want accountability standards in place if that oversight fails, but one thing at a time. I'm a third-generation Lubbockite, and Lubbock throughout my life and my parents' and my grandparents' lives, I'm third generation, has been very slow to jump on any new bandwagons. If there was ever a time when that is a standard to live up to, it is now. If you want tourism, if you want a thriving economy, stand against data centers and for people. It will make you guys, yeah, I'm talking to all of you guys, it will make you guys my heroes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sequoia. Irving?
Well, you guys took a beating tonight, didn't you? I am somewhat asking the same question, but before we move on, I want to thank all of you. You guys are normal people like all of us, and you volunteered to be where you're at. It's hard. Mr. Atkinson, it's hard to run the city, so thank you, sir. And you guys, you read a lot, I know. I'm not in favor or against data centers. And the reason why I'm not against it is because I don't have enough data to be able to say what are the good things about data centers. LIDA published a 9-page commentary, per se. We need to see the data. We need to see what are the benefits of this, but specifically to the citizens of Lubbock. You want to go one step further and really make a economics nerd happy, make it by the district. What are the benefits in each one of the districts for all of us? We know the risks. We know what are the consequences of taking on these massive projects. What's in it for the city? What are we getting in return for that? So if we can voice that and publish that and make it more transparent, I think that the conversation would be a lot more pleasant, a lot more open, and we would all be able to make that decision a lot easier. So once again, Council, thank you very much for all that you do. Thank you guys. You guys go get some rest.
Thank you very much, Irving. That concludes our citizen comments for tonight. I want to personally say thank you. I asked you to follow the rules and be respectful, and y'all were great. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.